Chapter 290. Lin Chen jumped into the lake alone and fell from the sky. With a loud bang, he fell into the lake. When he jumped into the lake, he saw two spiritual pearls the size of a fist. They were shining with a milky white light and looked like the sun and moon hanging in the dark lake. The corners of his mouth curled up into a smile like a cat playing with a mouse. Lin Chen deliberately reached out his hand to touch the two pearl-like spiritual pearls, causing the entire lake to instantly churn and churn. As the torrent flowed in, two bloody mouths covered in countless bloody barbs and sharp teeth lunged towards Lin Chen. They were so fast that he couldn't react in time in the lake. Big Dipper Battle Chi. The metal elemental battle force transformed his bloodline energy, and Lin Chen's entire body was covered in a golden aura. The moment the two bloody mouths tried to bite him, it was like a tiger trying to swallow a piece of dark steel. They couldn't even move a single inch. Ancient Azure Dragon. The moment Lin Chen gave the command to the ancient Azure Dragon in his mind, Lin Chen punched out furiously. With over 900 dragon power points, he was like a ferocious dragon that was born. His punch pierced through one of the mouths. Boom! The space shook. The ancient Azure Dragon, that had been hiding for a long time, got out of the Azure Dragon phantom state and bit the two black behemoths in the lake. In an instant, the entire lake was stirred up by thousands of huge waves, causing the sky and earth to turn upside down. Waves of blood dyed the bottom of the lake red. Not long after, the ancient Azure Dragon swallowed the two pearl abyss toads. This kind of beast was quiet and had a strong shell defense. It was born with a pearl-like spiritual pearl as bait to lure food and creatures. It was an assassin hiding in the deep sea. It was a pity that they met Lin Chen, a human who was even more terrifying than a monster. They didn't even have the chance to hide in the shell. Host received 800 million points of Qi and blood. Host received 600 million points of Qi and blood. When the system screen popped up, the ancient Azure Dragon swallowed the two pearl abyss toads into its body and chewed the beast cores into its stomach. The dragon veins opened again. 10 more dragon veins and the ancient Azure Dragon can break through 2,000 points of dragon power. Lin Chen was excited. The Abyss Island was a paradise for him and the ancient Azure Dragon. Their silhouettes flashed, and a man and a dragon left the bottom of the lake to search for the next target. Lin Chen purposely gave the ancient Azure Dragon a mark similar to that of the ferocious beasts that participated in the auction. Even if it was occasionally exposed to the demonic ice stone in battle, there was no need to worry at all. 7 days later, on the 7th floor of the ancient tower, the dire beast auction was coming to an end. Many forces and sects had bought the high-tier dire beasts they wanted. At this moment, another scene on the hundreds of screens attracted everyone's attention. The nearly 10,000 zhang long Azure Dragon's body was like a holy dragon that moved through the clouds and rain. Its dragon roar shook the heavens, and its two claws viciously tore through the void, tearing an extremely powerful ancient hornless dragon into pieces. What an overbearing ancient Azure Dragon! Isn't this the one that old man Xiao bought? Why does it seem a little different? The number is 511, not the one that old man Xiao bid for. Could it be that the heavenly Kirin Holy Sun has subdued 2 ancient Azure Dragons and put them in the auction this time? This is not simple. The ancient Azure Dragon is not a hybrid like the hornless dragon. It is a purebred dragon, and its potential is definitely higher than most dire beasts. Holy sh*t. There is such a good treasure. 5 level 5 elixir pills, plus 1,500 spiritual crystals and a low-level blue rank offensive combat skill. At this moment, many sex experts' eyes lit up. They had returned with a full load, and now they were bidding again. Moreover, this bidding war was at a level that shocked the entire world. Damn, these lunatics can even take out a blue rank combat skill. The foundation of a first-rate sect is really terrifying. Many experts' faces and necks were red from the bidding, and they almost fought because of this. The azure dragon they saw was Lin Chen's ancient azure dragon. In order to hide his identity, Lin Chen deliberately let the ancient azure dragon suppress part of its power. This was because the dire beasts in the Abyss Island, except for a few in the ancient tower, were not at the peak of level 5. On the top floor of the ancient tower, Bai Tianqi, the heavenly Qilin Holy Sun, who had been reading a blue-rank battle skill book at the top of the tower for the past few days, slowly opened his eyes at this moment. His eyes were filled with indifference and nobility as he spoke indifferently. There seems to be some trouble. What happened? Elder Qiying, did I subdue the azure dragon this time? The beautiful Yuan venerate woman behind him hesitated for a moment before shaking her head. Reporting to the Holy Sun, Qi Ying did not remember. You are very resourceful. When you used the creation beast taming technique, there were too many dire beasts present, so you did not remember everything. Forget it. It's just an ancient azure dragon. I have a few other dire beasts as excellent as it. There is no harm in selling it, Bai Tianqi said nonchalantly. Instead, he focused on the blue-rank combat skill in his hand. As he read it carefully, an endless storm appeared in his eyes. However, things seemed to have gone far beyond everyone's expectations. On the 11th day of the Dire Beast auction, on the 7th floor of the ancient tower, many experts from the first-rate sects and forces had finished choosing their dire beast. The banquet was about to end. That's not right. Look, what is that? Two black-robed old men with ferocious eyes suddenly shouted. Their aged fingers pointed at a scene in the center of hundreds of light screens. Two behemoths were surrounding an azure dragon, but they were bitten and torn into pieces on the spot. Isn't that the ancient azure dragon from a few days ago? Oh my god! That seems to be the third one, right? What is its serial number? When everyone saw the serial number 424 engraved on the ancient azure dragon's head, they were instantly shocked and astonished. At first, it was 479, then 511, and now 424? Could there really be 3 ancient azure dragons? 4795111424. What is that? No. Something is wrong. 3 ancient azure dragons, and their strength is completely similar. This is too unrealistic. Hurry up and send a message to Saint Tianqi. On the top floor of the ancient tower, almost at the same time when the VIPs noticed the abnormality, Bai Tianqi suddenly opened his eyes, and a monstrous and destructive energy storm appeared in his eyes. It was as if the end of the world had arrived in an instant. His gaze was fixed in the direction of the southern area of the island. The heaven and earth spirit chi in the sky of the entire Abyss Island instantly turned into chaos, and the wind and clouds surged. There is actually a reckless bug that sneaked into my auction. It's courting death. Bai Tianqi suddenly tiptoed, and his figure seemed to teleport. He suddenly tore through space and rushed toward the south at extreme speed. Roar, roar, roar. The entire ancient tower began to shake, and endless beastly roars burst out. Streaks of ferocious aura that originated from the ancient and primordial era broke out in an instant. In the southern area, Lin Chen, who had just killed 2 Class 5 dire beasts, suddenly had goosebumps all over his body. A chill of murderous intent and misfortune suddenly attacked him. I've been discovered? It's the Saint of Abyss Island. Chapter 291. Lin Chen, who was prepared to use his purple-gold eyes at any moment, reacted almost instantly. His whereabouts had been exposed. Over 800 level 5 dire beasts have been slain in 10 days. Ha ha ha. That's enough. I don't care if you are a sage or a dog. Brother Chen will slip away first. The ancient azure dragon transformed into a beam of green dragon breath and entered Luo Yunyang's body. Lin Chen's purple phoenix wings spread out in all directions, and he turned into the Nether King of Wind prison. With each step he took, he stirred up the wind, and with each step he took, He tore through the sky with layers of sonic booms, and blasted out endless waves of air that were 3,000 meters long. The wind-prisoned dark monarch steps combined with the purple phoenix wings. His speed was like a shooting star streaking across the sky. Thousands of miles to the south of Abyss Island in the sky, Bai Ruoyan's expression changed slightly. She had already sensed that the Yuan Venerate aura on Abyss Island was showing signs of moving at an extremely fast speed. What is this little fellow doing? Why has he alarmed the Yuan Venerate and the Sage of Abyss Island? Just as she thought of this, a silver-robed figure shuttled through the void. Purple flames swirled and a green wind blew like hell as he hovered in the void and exchanged a glance with Bai Ruoyan. Before the two of them could speak, a thunderous sonic boom followed. Lin Chen and Bai Ruoyan were on high alert. However, their expressions were no longer as solemn and oppressive as before. They were already outside the spatial boundary of Abyss Island. Furthermore, Bai Juanhao and the others had already been rescued. The other party definitely did not have any means to threaten Lin Chen and Bai Ruoyan. Given the strength and foundation of the two of them, they could fight a big battle and escape without any extra pressure. The two streaks of light were more than 10,000 meters apart, one above and one below. They shot over like sacred arrows and revealed two figures. The first to meet were two Yuan Venerate powerhouses. You look unfamiliar. Could you be a powerhouse outside of the spiritual state? How dare you offend the Bai family? Are you tired of living? The beautiful woman, Qi Ying, stared at Bai Ruoyan and said indifferently. She was holding a shocking treasure sword that was as bright as the clouds. The sword aura shook the sky. A mere Bai family can't intimidate me. It's the same for you, a second-level Yuan Venerate. It's just a matter of a few rounds for me. Bai Ruoyan's white dress floated in the air, swaying gracefully like snow. That otherworldly temperament, that indifferent and elegant beautiful eyes flashed with a cold light. Is that so? Then how about we add it into the mix? Qi Ying knew that she was not Bai Ruoyan's opponent. She flipped her palm and the spirit receiving ring flashed. A mass of green energy that was as pure as the ocean rose from the center of his palm and formed a human figure. It gradually twisted into a human shape and finally turned into a fierce middle-aged man with sharp eyes and eagle-like eyebrows. He had a sword at his waist and looked like the king of swords in ancient times. Oh, an Abyssal Origin Palace clone. This person must have been left behind by the original owner of the Abyssal Island's spatial barrier. Bai Ruoyan was slightly surprised. Logically speaking, a spatial boundary that even she found difficult to set up wasn't something a second-level Yuan Venerate could set up. You have good eyesight. Elder Bai Yun's Abyssal Origin Palace clone has a third-level Yuan Venerate cultivation. Let's see how you're going to protect this brat in a one-on-two battle. Qi Ying raised her hand, and when the sword light was unsheathed, the sky darkened and the earth darkened. It actually felt like doomsday. On the other side, Bai Tianqi and Lin Chen stood opposite each other in the void. Why would a lowly mortal like you appear in this Saint's Beast auction? A fifth-level Heaven Dipper realm? What kind of trash cultivation is this? How dare you come out and jump around? Could it be that you dare to look down on my Bai family just because you have an ancient azure dragon and a Yuan Venerate? Bai Tianqi frowned and a disdainful look appeared on his feminine face as he sneered slightly. Lin Chen took out a white feather fan that was smaller than his palm. The word handsome was engraved on it as he chuckled. Your Excellency must be the so-called saint. You don't look very good. You don't even have 1/10,000th of my handsomeness. Furthermore, I was able to kill more than 800 ferocious beasts on your island when I was at the 5th-level Heaven Dipper realm. I wonder if your Excellency can achieve half of my efficiency when you were at the 5th-level Heaven Dipper realm. In terms of infuriating others, no one could compare to Lin Chen. With just a few words, the shrewd Bai Tianqi's veins were bulging and his eyes were about to pop out. No wonder when he was flying over earlier, he suddenly felt that there were a lot fewer ferocious beasts on the island. At first, he didn't believe that an ancient azure dragon that hadn't reached the 5th level could actually do this. So it was this brat who did it. Most importantly, Mr. Lin wasn't a picky eater. He specifically picked out ferocious beasts with good potential and aptitude. Most of the ferocious beasts had caught the eye of many buyers, and the rest were just ordinary ferocious beasts. I think you're courting death. How dare you provoke this saint? If you can leave here alive today, my name, Saint Tianqi, will be written in reverse. Bai Tianqi's shoulders suddenly trembled, and his eyes instantly emitted a resplendent white light. At that moment, an earth-shattering roar reverberated in the sky. Black shadows blotted out the sky as 4 gigantic creatures appeared in the sky. Lin Chen's expression turned serious, which was a rare sight. The 4 colossal creatures were entrenched under Bai Tianqi's feet, and their might shook the world. Each of them was an extremely powerful ferocious beast that commanded 10 directions in ancient times. The blazing sky golden crow in the lead spread its flaming wings angrily. When it spread its wings, it was like a pair of wings that covered the sky. It was close to 5,000 feet long, and its entire body was burning with crimson flames. It looked like a black eagle, and its 4 tails were embellished with crimson flames like stars. The second one was an ancient blue phoenix. Its feathers were azure, and its form was like a wild goose. It was 1,000 feet tall, and its wingspan was 1,000 meters long. Its tail was spread out, and every feather swayed with different elements of energy. It was as if a slight flap of its wings could cause the world to tremble. The third one was an extremely rare purple-winged cloud-stepping beast from ancient times. Its form was like a bull, and its wings were 1,000 feet long. Its entire body was purple, and on both sides of its head were 6 horns that reached the heavens. The last one was so powerful that even the ancient azure dragon in Lin Chen's body subconsciously rushed out and entered a state of alert. Its entire body was flowing with golden flames, and its body was like a fierce horse. Its limbs were like a bull's hooves, and its front claws were like the claws of a black eagle. It had the head of a qilin, the tail of a carp, and coral horns. It was 4,000 feet tall, and it looked down on all living things. It was a golden flame swanny beast. Its grade was probably close to the peak of Tier 5. Bai Tianqi stood in the center of the 4 ferocious beasts, holding the holy plate and the heavenly staff. He wore a dragon robe, a feathered crown on his head, and a jade belt on his waist. His eyes were like stars. He was like the ruler of heaven and earth, and his eyes were like a king that judged all fates as he looked down on Lin Chen. Lin Chen's heart sank. This was the peak of the ancient families, the most powerful peerless genius, the ancient holy sun. Just a look and a raise of his hand was enough to suppress countless heavenly dipper sovereigns. The might of the holy sun. He ruled the 7 regions and commanded the 8 desolates. He was invincible in the 9 heavens and 10 lands. An unprecedented killing intent and pressure completely enveloped Lin Chen and his ancient azure dragon. Chapter 292. On the other side, an even more terrifying battle unfolded, which was not inferior to the battle between Lin Chen and the sage. With a flash of silver light, Bai Ruoyan's slender fingers flicked lightly. A silver needle shot through the void and aimed at the unsheathed sword. When the sword met the sword, the void thousands of feet in front of the 2 ladies crumbled like tofu. The space between the 2 of them twisted at an extremely fast speed, creating chaotic and complicated ripples. It was impossible to see what kind of terrifying aftershock the 2 of them created from their clash. Both of them were Yuan venerates, and their battle chi had formed their own Yuan palaces. With their minor laws, it was as though they were 2 lifeforms that had absorbed the energy of 2 realms were fighting. If the 2 of them deliberately controlled their attacks between Yuan venerates, their attacks would not even have a chance to spread before they were completely destroyed in the chaotic void. Both Qi Ying and Bai Ruoyan had people they did not want to hurt. They were Bai Tianqi and Lin Chen. Therefore, the two of them had not completely let go of their battle. Otherwise, everything within a radius of thousands of miles would be turned upside down and yin and yang would be reversed. No other life forms would exist. Swoosh! A flickering afterimage flashed, and a sharp sword light pierced through the void and pierced Bai Ruoyan's delicate body. The afterimage slowly disappeared, and Bai Ruoyan did not get hit. This caused the Yuanfu avatar with battle consciousness to be slightly stunned. A light and delicate jade-like hand appeared like a ghost, as if it was weak and powerless, gracefully pressing onto the back of the Yuanfu avatar. The explosive palm force blasted the Yuanfu avatar into the sea below, setting off thousands of feet of raging waves that converged into a whirlpool. Qi Ying soared with her sword and attacked again. The intense battle between the two of them changed rapidly in the blink of an eye. 100 miles away from the three Yuan venerates, 4 ancient ferocious beasts surrounded Lin Chen under Bai Tianqi's command. The blazing golden crow spat out a large amount of scarlet flames that were like a tornado that wanted to devour Lin Chen. The golden flame swan and I swallowed a beam of golden light that shot into the blazing storm. When the two entirely different forces were about to collide, they miraculously melted with the scorching storm and turned into 3 bullets of golden light that shot at Lin Chen and the primordial dragon like shooting stars. Lin Chen's pupils shrank. There was actually such a way of fighting? The energies of the two ancient beasts were completely different existences. When mixed together, it was very likely to cause a destructive explosion. However, Bai Tianqi was actually able to perfectly fuse them and unleash their power to the maximum. The name of the Holy Sun was indeed well deserved. Azura 9 Brilliance Transformation, Heavenly Water Transformation. In an instant, the first layer of Azura 9 Brilliance Transformation was completed. The moment Lin Chen activated the charging rune, the dark energy wheel spun in his palm. The ancient Azure Dragon refinement spat out 2 beams of Azure Dragon breath, turning them into sharp blades that slashed forward. Boom! 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 Lin Chen's entire body erupted with thunderous booms and vibrations, as if thunder was constantly exploding in the sky. Every pore on his body glowed with dragon aura that could destroy mountains and rivers. It erupted together as if thousands of dragons were dancing wildly. The momentum was earth-shattering, as if the sun and moon were shining in the sky. The sky demon's sea domain under his feet kept surging with raging waves. Even though he was 30,000 meters above the sea surface, the dragon aura still caused thousands of waves to rise. After nearly 11 days of crazy killing and slaughtering beasts, Lin Chen had already obtained a huge amount of blood qi attribute light balls. His blood qi energy had already exceeded 130 billion points. In terms of pure strength, he already had 1,400 dragon power points. Dark Devour! Everything happened in the blink of an eye. Lin Chen circulated 1,400 dragon power points, raised the dark wheel in his palm, and slammed it out. Bang! Bang! Chi! The moment the dragon breath blade cut through the blazing golden light bullet, it exploded into a destructive shockwave. The moment the destructive energy overflowed, it was pushed away by Lin Chen's Dark Devour wheel with pure strength, and the shockwave completely devoured the energy of the explosion. The shockwave did not hurt him or the ancient Azure Dragon. Almost at the same time, the purple-winged cloud-stepping beast in the northwest direction stepped on the clouds, rumbling the void, and charged towards him. The ancient blue phoenix behind it let out a long cry, and as it flapped its wings, the 3 types of energy of ice, fire, and wind swept across the sky. The wind and fire elemental energy merged into a ball, blessing the purple-winged cloud-stepping beast's body, causing its charge to be even more lethal and destructive. Thunder Punishment Transformation. In the blink of an eye, Lin Chen completed the second stage of Azura Brilliant Transformation. His cultivation broke through from mid-stage Heaven Star Border Stage 5 to early stage Heaven Star Border Stage 6, and then to peak stage Heaven Star Border Stage 6. Charging Rune, Frozen Sky Finger. The moment the battle chi transformed into a special bloodline, Lin Chen pointed out the Frozen Sky Finger at lightning speed. Within hundreds of miles, cold air suddenly arrived. Ice flowers spun in the sky. The cold light of the ice star pierced through the sky and froze the void, freezing the movement of the purple-winged cloud-stepping beast abnormally slow. The ancient azure dragon, who was facing the saint, did not even turn its head. Its mind seemed to have become one with Lin Chen's, and its dragon tail swept out, crushing the purple-winged cloud-stepping beast. The dragon tail's pure strength of over 3,000 dragon power points burst out, and the purple-winged cloud-stepping beast was swept to the surface of the sea, creating a whirlpool and huge waves. This brat's azure dragon is actually hidden so deeply. It's not just a peak stage Heaven Star Border Stage 5, but a peak stage Heaven Star Border Stage 5. Bai Tianqi's eyes suddenly narrowed. The ancient azure dragon's dragon tail's strength was close to 3,100 dragon power points. This brat has a huge secret on him. His body can actually release the ancient azure dragon. This azure dragon is of the same origin as him, so he can fuse it into his body and summon it to battle at any time. If I can get this secret technique, I won't be far from becoming the first saint of the ancient families. Endless greed flashed in Bai Tianqi's eyes. He realized how important Lin Chen was to him in this short battle, and he had his eyes on Lin Chen. Bai Tianqi was born in the Bai family, and was the saint who had been baptized by the holy fire several times. The special ability hidden in his cultivation method and bloodline allowed him to establish a strange connection and communication with the fierce beasts, and he could tame a certain number of fierce beasts. His army of fierce beasts had frightened many masters of the same generation in the ancient families of the spiritual state. If he could fuse the bodies of the fierce beasts into his body like Lin Chen and the ancient azure dragon, then he alone would be the entire army of fierce beasts. Azura 9 Brilliance Change, Dark Abyss Change. Lin Chen used the third stage of Azura 9 Brilliance Change, and his cultivation level rose to the mid-stage of Heaven Star Border Realm Stage 7 before it gradually stopped. Bai Tianqi stood proudly in the middle of the four ancient fierce beasts, while Lin Chen and the ancient azure dragon hovered in the air, their battle intent soaring to the sky. The two sides didn't back down. Just the aura they condensed was enough to shock the universe, stirring up the clouds and changing the color of the sea outside the Abyss Island. Thousands of miles away from the ancient pagoda on the Abyss Island, the leaders and masters of the first-rate forces and sects from the spiritual state, including the masters of the Bai family who guarded the Abyss Island, numbered more than 1,000 people. They walked in the air and looked at the turbulent sea in the distance, and all of them shivered with fear and fear. Which young man was so bold that he dared to show his claws and fangs to Bai Tianqi, the holy son of the Bai family? Chapter 293. The Phoenix Roared. Between the distortion of space, light and shadow intertwined, and the shadows that covered the sky were constantly changing. The five ancient beasts danced in the air, and there were two young figures among them. In the chaotic battle, the universe was turbulent and the void collapsed. Within a radius of 1,000 miles, it was the main battlefield of their chaotic battle. After countless rounds of fighting, the ancient blue phoenix and the blazing sky golden one took the lead to open up a distance. Through the chaotic battle earlier, Lin Chen already had a preliminary understanding of the details of these four fierce beasts, Bai Tianqi. Except for the golden flame Swanee beast, which was comparable to the middle stage of Heaven Dipper realm, the rest had just entered the peak of Stage 5. At most, they were comparable to the early stage of Stage 9. But under the control and coordination of the Bai Tianqi, they displayed more than double their strength. Their cooperation was flawless, and the energy fusion attack was at the peak of perfection. But for Lin Chen, who often cooperated with the ancient azure dragon, this was not a hopeless situation. The golden crow cried, and the blazing flames gathered, turning into a ball of energy turbulence. The golden flame swanny beast breathed out, and golden light shone, turning into a blazing flame ball that burned the space. It was reddish gold in color, and each one was 10 feet in size. A mere wild dog can fight with me for 200 rounds without being defeated. You should be proud. Die. Since you have fallen into my hands, there are plenty of ways to make you hand over the secret technique of hiding the azure dragon. The heavenly Kirin Saint waved his heavenly staff slightly, and hundreds of flame balls flew in the air. The momentum was great, forming a series of meteor showers, falling toward the larger ancient azure dragon. Ha! Who doesn't know how to talk big? Wait until you beat me, Muggle Saint. Accompanying the young man's heroic laughter was a series of sonic booms. Whoosh, 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 bang, bang, bang. Hundreds of purple flames and green winds flashed and disappeared. Countless afterimages belonging to Lin Chen brandished the spear and flashed around the ancient azure dragon. Every time an afterimage appeared, there would be more than one blazing flame ball that was sent flying or crushed by Lin Chen's spear tip. Lin Chen's lightning-quick cover gave the ancient azure dragon a chance and space. The dragon claw slashed out, crushing mountains, rivers, and earth veins, shattering the void, tearing apart the ancient blue phoenix and the sky-blazing golden crow that had the weakest defense. Bai Tianqi frowned slightly. The sacred jade wheel in his palm, the phoenix's tail swayed, and the golden crow's golden crow roared, spitting out an energy torrent of ice and fire. The golden flame swanny beast and the cloud-stepping beast took turns to provide cover as they charged at the ancient azure dragon from both sides. Demonic might wild thunder, dominating the 8 desolations. The tip of the spear danced in the air, and a lightning dragon that was thousands of feet long appeared out of nowhere. It shattered the lightning dragon right in front of the 2 behemoths. Lin Chen, who was already prepared for his second move, pushed his palm into the air. Corrosive rune. Light's fury. The light energy ball was surrounded by pure and flawless destructive battle aura. It burst out from his palm and blasted toward the energy torrent of the ancient blue phoenix and the blazing golden crow. Although this move did not completely repel the ancient azure dragon and the golden crow's attack, it made the heavenly Kirin Saint's son's eyes suddenly focus. How can there be such a strange combat skill? The ancient azure dragon and the golden crow's energy has been greatly weakened. What kind of combat skill is this? The moment the attacks of the blue phoenix and the golden crow weakened, the ancient azure dragon's dragon claws tore apart their torrents of energy and grabbed their bodies in midair. The ancient azure dragon's claws tore the feathers of the ancient azure dragon and the golden crow, penetrating their flesh and making them cry out on the spot. As the dragon claws gradually tore their flesh and blood, a large number of colorful attribute light balls began to roll out from the wounds of the ancient azure dragon and the golden crow, dazzling the eyes. A large number of attribute light balls were green, white, blue, red, yellow, and so on. They were dazzling and colorful, floating in the air like a scene from a fairyland. The ancient azure phoenix was different from other savage beasts. Its body contained more attribute energy than most savage beasts. Oh no! Bai Tianqi shouted in his heart. He did not expect Lin Chen to do this at all. He immediately used his mental cultivation method to control the stepping cloud beast and the golden flame swanny beast to support the ancient azure dragon and the golden crow. Slow rune. Host has consumed 7 million rune energy points. He pushed his palm across the air, and a grayish-white rune fell from the sky, stopping the movements of the 2 behemoths on the spot. Their movements became incomparably slow. Lin Chen fiercely kicked the air, and 1,400 dragon power points were fully unleashed. At the same time, he swung the spear with both hands. The spear was like a spinning wheel, smashing the 2 behemoths into the sea. Brother Chen, I've saved up 75 million rune energy points, and I'm going to fight you guys. Lin Chen tapped his feet lightly, and the purple phoenix wings flapped, and his body turned into an afterimage. With Lin Chen's pure strength, he could only fight with a mid-stage Heaven Dipper Realm Stage 8. Although he could not cause any substantial damage to them, it was not a problem to send them flying. Bai Tianqi was dumbfounded. What kind of technique is this? There was no battle aura fluctuation, no space seal, and no artifacts. He actually suppressed 2 Stage 5 savage beasts, just like that? The afterimage in the air suddenly trembled a few times. Although he was more than 200 miles away, Lin Chen's speed was so fast that even Bai Tianqi was frightened. Damn mortal, you want to sneak attack me? The wheel in his palm turned, and Bai Tianqi disappeared from the spot. The tip of a spear that pierced through the void had just pierced through the air. Lin Chen appeared and was ready for battle. Seeing that he was hundreds of miles away, Lin Chen was not in a hurry to chase after him. His back was as straight as a battle spear, and he held the black abyss in his hand as he walked in the air, blocking Bai Tianqi. The most important task now was to destroy the blazing golden crow and the ancient blue phoenix. At that moment, the 315 dragon veins in the ancient azure dragon's body roared with dragon aura that could swallow the sky and the moon. As the dragon twisted its body, it twisted the blue phoenix and the golden crow together. Its 4 dragon claws and dragon mouth cooperated, constantly biting, strangling, and swallowing their blood energy step by step. In just 10 days, Lin Chen let the ancient azure dragon devour more than 800 mid-stage and high-stage, Stage 5 savage beasts. Its pure strength reached 3,150 dragon power, and it had nearly doubled. In terms of combat power, the current ancient azure dragon was not inferior to a late-stage Heaven Dipper Realm Stage 9. The current ancient azure dragon would not benefit much from devouring Stage 5 savage beasts and below. In terms of one-on-one combat, the ancient azure dragon could fight any one of the 4 savage beasts. But in a group battle, the ancient azure dragon could not withstand the fierce attacks of the 4 savage beasts. Host has received 1 billion points of blood energy, 500 million points of blood energy, 5 billion points of battle aura essence. Host has received 5 million points of water-type energy, 2 million points of metal-type energy. Countless attribute light balls were integrated into the ancient azure dragon's body and fed back to Lin Chen. The attribute value welcomed a wave of crazy increase. Bai Tianqi suddenly stared at the ancient azure dragon. As its dragon veins opened wildly, its pure strength broke through to 3,300 dragon power. Its expression changed slightly for the first time. What kind of joke is this? His azure dragon is actually devouring the blood energy of my blue phoenix and golden crow, forcibly plundering the energy. This is a demonic dragon-type cultivation method. Could this azure dragon be a demonic dragon with a mutated bloodline? Chapter 294. Who the hell is this young man? Why don't I have any impression of such a person? What's more, he has a powerful ancient azure dragon with him. A red-robed middle-aged man standing in the sky above the Abyss Island frowned. He couldn't think of an answer even after pondering for a long time. I don't know. In the spirit state, only the saint or saintess of the ancient families can contend with the saint. The 3 enchanting women shook their heads, revealing disbelief and shock. Other than the purple merit-level prodigies of the Heavenly Song Academy who can contend with him, any young prodigies cultivated by the first-rate forces can hardly be compared to the saint. Many leaders of the first-rate forces pondered in distress. In fact, it wasn't that they hadn't heard of Lin Chen's name. On the contrary, some of the powerhouses present had heard of Lin Chen's deeds. However, they couldn't relate it to Lin Chen at all. Combined with Lin Chen's previous deeds, although his aptitude and potential were extremely powerful, he still hadn't reached the level of the saint after all. A few months ago, he was just a young man who dealt with Heaven Dipper Realm Level 5 and below. How could he confront the saint now? Outside the Abyss Island, high in the sky above the sea, Bai Tianchi stood in the air, burning with anger. He suddenly clenched the heaven staff in his hand tightly. His face instantly turned green. He was the saint, and his wisdom and temperament were far superior to ordinary people. When Lin Chen's ancient azure dragon rapidly devoured the energy and blood of the blue phoenix and the golden crow, Bai Tianchi immediately understood the cause and effect. This kid came to his Abyss Island to hunt ferocious beasts. Bai Tianchi ordered the powerhouses of the Bai family to go to the great wilderness to capture a large number of ferocious beasts. He then mobilized the ferocious beasts that he had subdued with great difficulty and auctioned them to various forces on the Abyss Island. All of this was for the Bai family's plan. It was all King done for this kid. Today you will die without a doubt. Bai Tianchi's eyes were red, and he lost his composure for the first time as he roared. His figure suddenly trembled, and he jumped through the air, covering a distance of 100 miles in the blink of an eye. It's hard to say who will die. Lin Chen's eyes revealed a murderous glint. The ancient azure dragon had completely controlled the blue phoenix and the golden crow. It was only a matter of time before the two big guys were killed. He was responsible for taking care of Bai Tianchi's scepter of sacrifice. The heavenly staff pointed directly at Lin Chen and shot out 3 pitch-black light pillars with the energy of death. They traversed the blue dome of heaven and pierced through the 9 heavens. Freezing sky finger. The rune's energy decreased by 1,000,000 points. Lin Chen pointed his finger and froze the pitch-black light beam. He raised the dark abyss spear in his hand and thrust it forward. 1,000 demonic lightning. Corrosive rune. Lightning spear shadows bloomed in the sky, crazily piercing through the 3 pitch-black light pillars. The spear light was mixed with pure power that could shatter mountains and rivers, and it bombarded Bai Tianchi's chest. Oh! Bai Tianchi was constantly pushed back by the spear light. His figure retreated more than 10 steps in the air, and his face was slightly pale. Suddenly, his expression changed drastically. He discovered that he was experiencing the same symptoms as the golden crow and blue phoenix. His battle chi was being eroded by an inexplicable force, and his battle strength was less than 60%. Lin Chen was aggressive, and he didn't give Bai Tianchi any time to catch his breath. The dark abyss spear was like a ferocious beast that attacked violently. As the spear danced wildly, streaks of spear light bombarded the sky, smashing and sweeping, forcing Bai Tianchi to retreat step by step. The two of them were like 2 streams of light that intertwined and collided with each other. They fought from a high altitude to the surface of the sea, and then from the surface of the sea to the edge of the surrounding islands. Every time their battle chi collided, it would shake the void within a radius of hundreds of miles. The dark abyss spear swung left and right, and the spear technique was ferocious like a coiling dragon biting. Just as the tip of the spear was dodged, the tail of the spear rose up like a rising dragon and fiercely struck Bai Tianchi's chin. Bang! The energy wave exploded, and a terrifying force burst forth and spread throughout Bai Tianchi's body. Even a few of his teeth were broken. A blue light flashed and protected Bai Tianchi's chin and body. Then, he was sent flying to an abandoned island by Lin Chen's remaining force. He was in a sorry state. If it wasn't for the protection of the treasure, Lin Chen's strength would have been enough to blow his head off. Although Bai Tianchi's cultivation was at the early stage of the Heaven Dipper realm, his fighting style was only suitable for controlling ferocious beasts to fight. He had long been used to living like a prince. When facing a fierce person like Lin Chen, who had been tempered in countless battles, 10 Bai Tianchis couldn't compare to Lin Chen in terms of close combat experience. Bai Tianchi was so aggrieved that he was about to vomit blood. On this trip to Abyss Island, he didn't bring his strongest ferocious beast at all. Instead, He left it in the Bai family to cultivate and recuperate. He only brought the blue phoenix golden crow, the stepping cloud beast, and the golden flame swanee lion. His original intention was to use the remaining ferocious beasts after the auction to train his 4 ferocious beasts. Therefore, he didn't bring his level 6 ferocious beasts this time when he was overseeing Abyss Island. Damn it, if this Saint's dragon fire Qilin was here, this kind of trash can be blown to death with a dragon breath. In the past, Bai Tianqi wasn't even afraid of a Yuan Venerate. However, this time, he was actually beaten by Lin Chen, a Heaven Dipper realm cultivator, to the point that he could only defend. How suffocating! How humiliating! Lin Chen wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. With Bai Tianqi's foundation as a saint, Lin Chen also couldn't gain much of an advantage when he resisted with all his might. In fact, if it weren't for the primordial water art, Lin Chen would already be seriously injured. If a saint who wasn't good at close combat was so strong, how strong would those saints and saintesses who were good at head-on combat be? The moment before Bai Tianqi was sent flying, a few blue and white attribute light balls fell from his body. Lin Chen grabbed them, and the attribute light balls merged into his body. The system's screen immediately popped up. Host has received 3 million points of water-type energy, 5 million points of metal-type energy, 300,000 points of mental power, 10 billion points of battle chi essence, 18 billion points of battle chi essence, 13 billion points of battle chi essence. Boom! Lin Chen's 9-colored battle spirit rotated faster, and his true cultivation broke through again. His true cultivation had officially entered late-stage Heaven Dipper Realm Level 5. When he used the Azura 9 Brilliance transformation, Lin Chen's cultivation rose to late-stage Heaven Dipper Realm Level 7. Lin Chen licked his lips, his eyes flashing with ferocity and fanaticism, as if he had nothing to lose and was not afraid of wearing shoes. A saint is indeed a saint. Damn it, the attribute light balls dropped by a few casual injuries allowed me to break through a small realm and obtain tens of billions of battle chi essence. These attribute values are even more than the many evil sect powerhouses I annihilated in the Blood River sect. At this moment, Lin Chen's eyes shone brightly as he looked at Bai Tianqi. He couldn't help but swallow his saliva, like a pauper who had seen his money tree. That gaze made even Bai Tianqi's hair stand on end. How was this a saint that everyone was afraid of? To Lin Fan, this was AF * King walking a tribute light ball warehouse. Chapter 295. None of the leaders and experts of the various sects on Abyssal Island dared to leave the island to assist Bai Tianqi. The reason was simple. The saint had his own pride and dignity. If they helped him, it was equivalent to proving that the saint was inferior to the silver-robed young man. This kind of cultivation was equivalent to humiliation in the eyes of the saint. If they were not careful, they might even get themselves killed. In this kind of situation, the most important thing was to bide their time. On an island tens of thousands of miles away, Bai Juanhao, Su Lan, and the others were looking in a direction tens of thousands of miles away. With their cultivation, they could vaguely sense that the direction of the Abyss Island had been turned upside down. The rescued people should have followed Bai Ruoyan's instructions and left, but they were still worried about Lin Chen. They hid on an island and paid close attention to the situation on the Abyss Island. In the end, they still fought. I wonder if Big Brother can deal with that Saint Tianqi. Bai Juanhao took a deep breath and muttered to himself nervously. Although Big Brother is strong, the difference in cultivation time between them is too big. This is a fatal gap that cannot be made up for. Gu Chenfeng, who had lost an arm, sighed deeply. He couldn't help but worry. Su Lan and Su Lan held each other's hands tightly. Their beautiful eyes were filled with unswerving determination as they quietly waited for the final result. On the other side, Tiger Roaring Dragon Seal, Freezing Sky Finger, The dragon seal was like a seal that overturned the sky. As the wind and clouds swirled, the icy star finger pierced through the void and froze everything. The icy cold air sprinkled on the surface of the sea and instantly formed layers of ice. Bai Tianchi was shocked and angry. He pointed the heavenly staff at the void, and a huge golden Buddha phantom appeared behind him. 1,000 Buddha's sacred hands. The heavenly disk rotated, and the killing intent was suddenly aimed at Lin Chen. Thousands of golden palm prints attacked like a storm. The green lightning that crossed the sky turned into a spear shadow and collided with the endless golden palm prints. Bang! 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 Earth-shattering energy waves exploded in the distance between Lin Chen and Bai Tianchi. The golden palm prints gradually suppressed the green lightning spear shadow and pressed forward step by step, as if they wanted to crush Lin Chen in the Sky Demon Sea region. Although Lin Chen's demonic fighting Thousand Thunder was strong, it was clear that Bai Tianchi's battle technique was superior. "Watch me crush you, you trash!" A ferocious and murderous look appeared on Bai Tianchi's feminine face. He waved his heavenly staff, and the attacks of the golden Buddha palm behind him increased in intensity. Just as Bai Tianchi's attack was about to crush Lin Chen to death, Lin Chen's cold shout suddenly resounded throughout the entire arena. Rune of Slowing. The host has activated the level 3 slow rune, consuming 6 million rune energy. The grayish-white talisman passed through his golden Buddha palm attack and fell from the sky. Bai Tianchi suddenly revealed a panicked expression. This was the strange move he had used to deal with the cloud-stepping beast and the golden flame Swanee. Boom! The grayish-white talisman exploded right next to Bai Tianchi, and the circulation of his battle chi instantly slowed down by more than 3 times. My battle chi and my whole body have become very slow. What kind of move is this? Why haven't I heard of it before? Bai Tianchi's golden Buddha palm attack was like a deflated balloon, and it slowed down at the most critical moment. Even if Bai Tianchi used his advanced blue-rank myriad manipulation spiritual art, he was still unable to break through the restriction of this energy in his body. Oh, as expected of a saint, my slow runes effect actually only sealed about 1/3 of his movement and battle chi's circulation speed. What a domineering mental cultivation technique! Lin Chen's expression turned slightly serious. The spear in his hand suddenly shot out a world-destroying lightning dragon, and the lightning in the sky shattered the golden light that filled the sky. Just as Bai Tianchi was about to run out of skills, the slow rune suppressing the purple-winged cloud-stepping beast gradually disappeared, and Bai Tianchi discovered that he could control his 2 ferocious beasts again. Cloud-stepping beast, return. Bai Tianchi's expression changed, and he immediately controlled the 2 ferocious beasts. The sea started to surge violently, shattering the ice on the surface of the sea. The 2 ancient ferocious beasts that were sent into the sea were about to be reborn. Unexpectedly, there were already 2 bloody corpses on the surface of the sea. The ancient azure dragon was like a raging dragon, and it charged into the Sky Demon Sea domain. Rumble! Huge waves rolled on the surface of the sea. The purple-winged cloud-stepping beast and the golden flame swan and I were fighting with the ancient azure dragon in the sea. After the ancient azure dragon swallowed the blue phoenix and the sky-blazing golden crow, its pure strength had reached 3,600 dragon power points. It had no problem fighting 2 top-tier Tier 5 ferocious beasts that had lost Bai Tianchi's control. You still want to control ferocious beasts? Go home and play with mantis shrimps. Using the 9 Hell's Hades steps and the purple phoenix wings, Lin Chen instantly rushed in front of Bai Tianchi. With nearly 1,500 dragon power points, he waved the dark abyss spear and smashed it down like lightning. Bai Tianchi's expression finally revealed a hint of fear. Without being able to control ferocious beasts, his battle chi cultivation was suppressed, and he was being attacked by Lin Chen in close combat. Even his life was in danger. 1,000 Yuexian armor. Bai Tianqi had no choice but to use his ultimate life-saving skill, a defensive treasure armor formed by earth energy. The moment the armor formed to protect Bai Tianqi's body, Lin Chen's spear suddenly smashed on it. Bang! 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 Lin Chen attacked fiercely. His dragon power erupted, and every spear attack contained more than 1,500 dragon power points. In the blink of an eye, he had attacked more than 100 times and sent Bai Tianqi flying for thousands of miles. Lin Chen's arms emitted a brilliant golden light as his special metal elemental bloodline transformed. The sharp golden spear flashed and smashed around Bai Tianqi's body, cracking his defensive combat skill again and again. Bai Tianqi was shocked. His 1,000 yuan armor was a top-tier advanced blue-rank defensive combat skill. When he used it, it could even block a Yuan Venerate's attack for a dozen times. However, this brat's fierce attacks actually cracked it. The experts and leaders of the various sects, who were thousands of feet above the Abyss Island, were shocked. The saint is being suppressed in a direct confrontation. That's too scary. The saint is being beaten up. Where did this young man come from? I don't remember such a person in the spiritual state. Along the way, Lin Chen's spear techniques and pure strength were displayed to the extreme. The defense of the 1,000 yuan armor began to crack. Lin Chen smashed down with his spear, and 3 white attribute light balls appeared. Host received 12 billion battle aura essences, 7 million cultivation technique essences, 15 billion battle aura essences. Lin Chen's aura was like that of a demon king. As he waved his metal elemental bloodline arms, another 10 spear attacks were launched. 5 attribute light balls and an azure gold treasure chest fell from Bai Tianqi's chest wound. Lin Chen picked up the attribute light orb in the air and continued to attack it without stopping. Host received 4 million earth elemental energy points, 7 billion blood essence points, 250,000 spirit points. Host opened the azure gold treasure chest. Host received advanced blue rank defensive combat skill, 1,000 yuan armor. Advanced blue rank? Seeing this combat skill and the soaring attributes, Lin Chen could not help but laugh. Lin Chen could not suppress the ecstasy in his heart. As he attacked wildly, he could not help but raise his head to the sky and laugh maniacally. Ah! Awesome! So awesome! Beating the saint is so *King awesome. Hearing Lin Chen's wild laughter, all the leaders and experts who were watching the battle could not help but feel their scalps tingle as they sucked in cold air. Chapter 296. Is it really fun to fight the saint? Is this still something a human would say? Congratulations to the host for advancing to Heaven Dipper Realm Level 6. Lin Chen, who attacked Bai Tianqi fiercely, obtained countless attribute light balls. Finally, in the 7th wave of attribute light balls dropped by Bai Tianqi, his cultivation officially stepped into Heaven Dipper Realm Level 6. In the state of Azura 9 Brilliance transformation, his cultivation advanced to Heaven Dipper Realm Level 8. This made his attacks several times more ferocious. Even if Bai Tianqi, who was at the end of his rope, broke through the restraints of the slow rune, he was no longer Lin Chen's opponent with his heavy injuries. With Heaven Dipper Realm Level 8, coupled with pure strength combat and 9 calamities of creation, Lin Chen no longer needed to rely on the slow rune to fight him head-on. The spear was like a full moon as it rolled down and smashed onto Bai Tianqi's head. Bai Tianqi broke out in cold sweat. He dodged slightly at the critical moment and was hit on his left shoulder by the spear tip, completely shattering his 1,000 yuan armor into nothingness. Even his body was blasted to the bottom of the sea. The moment Bai Tianqi's left shoulder shattered, 3 attribute light balls and a golden light shot up into the sky. Congratulations to the host for triggering the system's special reward mechanism. Reward: 1x blue gold treasure chest. Lin Chen, who originally wanted to pursue the victory, couldn't help but be attracted by the blue gold light. This was the first time he saw a blue-gold treasure chest. Lin Chen's fingertips touched the blue-gold treasure chest after taking away the attribute light balls containing the rune's energy. When the treasure chest was opened, a thumb-sized pitch-black jade fragment entered between Lin Chen's eyebrows and was displayed in his system. Host opened the blue-gold treasure chest. Obtained. Phantom Rune Fragment, 1/3. Phantom Rune Fragment? What rune is this? Seeing the word characteristic rune, Lin Chen's eyes suddenly lit up. Characteristic runes were always his strongest trump card. Could it be that he was about to welcome the fourth characteristic rune? System replied to the host. Preliminary information of the phantom rune has been recorded. The host needs to collect 3 rune fragments to synthesize a complete phantom rune. Phantom rune can copy the host's strength and create a phantom clone with the same cultivation level as the host. The phantom doppelganger can perform the same attack as the host and is compatible with the host's charging rune effect. The doppelganger will disappear after receiving a certain amount of damage or after the rune's energy is exhausted. The system's explanation caused Lin Chen's eyes to widen. His mouth opened so wide that an egg could fit in it. This characteristic rune was simply heaven-defying. Wasn't this the same as using this talisman in battle to create another Lin Chen with the same level of strength as him, outflanking the opponent? Most importantly, it was compatible with charging runes. His attack power would be increased by 2 times. Just from the description alone, Lin Chen could feel that this phantom rune was definitely the trump card of trump cards, no matter if it was a one-on-one battle or a group battle. Suddenly, Lin Chen saw the words, 1/3, in the system and couldn't help but curse. F***CK. This is only the first fragment. What kind of cheating system is this? I still have to collect the other 2 fragments before I can use the real phantom rune. Before Lin Chen could finish cursing, the wind and clouds in the sky suddenly changed. The space within a radius of 10,000 miles suddenly trembled and solidified. An unprecedented spatial seal had been unfolded. The expression of Bai Ruoyan, who was fighting with Qi Ying, suddenly changed. Her green eyes turned serious. Oh no, the Bai family's Yuan Venerate powerhouse has arrived. The silver needle flew across the void, piercing through a shocking spatial crack and piercing the legs of the Yuan Palace doppelganger. Bai Ruoyan stood on her tiptoes and flew in the direction of Lin Chen like a dancing fairy. Boom! The scarlet sword light was like a rainbow that split the sun. It slashed through the waste and split the sky in 2. Bai Ruoyan was forced back a dozen steps. She flashed to the other side of the void with a grave expression. Even if I have to risk my life, I won't let you interfere. The Bai family's elders have arrived. That brat will definitely die. There was still blood at the corner of Qi Ying's mouth. She grinned maliciously as she brandished the sword in her hand to block Bai Ruoyan. A spatial vortex was spinning in the void. The moment an old palm blocked the spatial vortex, 2 figures slowly stepped out of the void. 2 old men in black and white robes slowly walked out of the spatial vortex. They crossed their arms before their chests and coldly looked down at Lin Chen as they spoke in an indifferent voice. I haven't seen a young man who dared to attack the Bai family for many years. No matter who you are today, you will definitely be a prisoner of the Bai family. As soon as they finished speaking, the space around them started to tremble and the surface of the sea started to sway. The many powerhouses of the various sects on Abyss Island couldn't help but feel envious. An ancient family was indeed an ancient family. They had 2 Yuan Venerate powerhouses at once. Apart from factions of the same level, no other first-rate faction could compare to them. In a first-rate faction, a Yuan Venerate powerhouse was already in existence that could draw a sword. In the entire sect, perhaps only a few supreme elders could reach this level. Many powerhouses also looked in Lin Chen's direction mockingly. This was the fate of someone who dared to provoke a saint. The spiritual state was still the world of the ancient families. At this moment, The ancient azure dragon broke out of the sea and returned to Lin Chen's side. Lin Chen was on high alert as he focused all his attention on the system. His 58 million points of rune energy were constantly flashing. As soon as the other party made a move, he would directly shoot out the slow rune that contained 58 million points of rune energy. Although he was in a hopeless situation, Lin Chen discovered that he was surprisingly not in a state of panic. The reason was because his purple-gold eyes, which had the ability to create something out of nothing, did not allow him to see his own doom. In the past, when facing more dangerous areas and opponents, Lin Chen could see his death luck and murderous luck. From there, he could distinguish the danger of his actions and battles. However, although the appearance of these two Yuan venerates was surrounded by endless murderous luck, he did not see any death luck. In other words, his life was not meant to end. Crack! Crack! Just as Lin Chen saw the mystery, the spatial seal that froze the void for thousands of miles shattered in an instant. The old man's thunderous roar reverberated across the sky. The people of the Bai family are really overbearing. Do you think the people of the Heavenly Song Academy can be reduced to prisoners with just one sentence? The black and white old man snorted coldly and flicked his sleeve. His eagle-like hand reached out to grab Lin Chen, twisting the space around him to block his escape route. These two elders wanted to capture Lin Chen by force. Tut! The wind howled as two finger lights tore through the void and blocked the attacks of the two elders. Beside Lin Chen, there were three figures floating in the air at an unknown time. The little lowly in white stood with her hands on her hips and snorted like an old woman. "Humph! How dare you attack in front of me? This kid is under my protection. Let's see who dares to touch him." Lin Chen stared at the little lowly's back with his mouth slightly open. Chapter 297. Heavenly Song Academy. The black and white elder's face darkened. He hadn't expected Bai Yunfei to have the backing of Heavenly Song Academy. Boom! Huge waves rose from the sea as Bai Tianqi rose from the sea, glaring at Lin Chen with resentment and murderous intent. Seeing Bai Tianqi in a sorry state and covered in blood, the little girl in white and the other two elders sized up Lin Chen in surprise. 14th, this brat had actually forced the holy son of a generation to such an extent. Can someone from Heavenly Song Academy casually interfere with our Bai family's affairs and injure our saint? The black-robed elder of the Bai family was filled with murderous intent. His eyes were cold as he took a step forward, causing the entire sea region to tremble. He wasn't afraid of the Heavenly Song Academy's Yuan Venerate at all. The Bai family was powerful and had many powerhouses. Today's incident had happened in front of many powerhouses of the spiritual state and concerned the dignity of the Bai family. If they couldn't get a reasonable explanation and result, they wouldn't be afraid of the Heavenly Song Academy. Whoosh! Two streams of light split apart and stood in opposite camps. They were Bai Ruoyan and Qiying. Casually interfere? Our Heavenly Song Academy students aren't so rude and unreasonable. Lin Chen, tell us the cause and effect. The other elder of the Heavenly Song Academy, Elder Bai Mei, stroked his beard and smiled. Lin Chen nodded, straightened his back, and spoke righteously. Your Bai family's saint kidnapped a student of my Heavenly Song Academy during the beast auction. I only broke into Abyss Island to save my companion. What's wrong with that? On the other hand, your Bai family's saint made a move on me. Do you think I have to stretch out my neck and wait to be killed? The two elders were stunned. Kidnapped a student of the Heavenly Song Academy? There were so many students in the Heavenly Song Academy, and countless of them died while carrying out missions in the outside world. Why would these old fellows come out personally? Little guys, come over here. Elder Bai Mei waved his hand, and Bai Juanhao and the others floated up from the sea. Now that we have witnesses and material evidence, our Heavenly Song Academy isn't afraid of trouble if your Bai family wants to find trouble. The white-clothed lowly giggled and rubbed her delicate jade-like hands together. Her green eyes were filled with a strong fighting spirit. Feeling the terrifying aura inside the little girl's body, the two elders' expressions became serious. They knew that today, Heavenly Song Academy intended to protect these students at all costs, even if the price was to offend the Bai family. Elder Bai Qianxuan, since the Bai family is in the wrong, why don't you take a step back? Does your Bai family have absolute power in the spiritual state? Another chubby middle-aged man said with a smile. A strange glint flashed through the corners of his eyes. Lung Clan? What are you guys doing here? The black-robed elder frowned, and the space force condensed in his palm slowly disappeared. With people from the Lung Clan here, even the Bai clan would not be able to bear the consequences of offending two powerful clans at once. We're not here to join in the fun. This Lin Chen is half a member of the Lung family. The yellow-clothed fatty laughed mischievously. When he glanced sideways at Lin Chen, he suddenly understood and smiled knowingly. However, Bai Tianqi gritted his teeth and said unwillingly, "Then, how do you explain this kid slaughtering more than 800 ferocious beasts of my Bai family?" Huh? The corner of Lin's mouth twitched, and he said with a mocking smile, "Holy Sun Bai, are you out of your mind? I came here to save people, and your ferocious beasts attacked me. How could I not fight back?" Lin Chen's shrug infuriated Bai Tianqi. However, because he was in the wrong, he was stopped by the two elders. The conversation between the two parties was clearly heard by the forces of the spiritual state under the Abyss Island, and they were all shocked. This Lin Chen kid is actually the genius of Heavenly Song Academy. Heavenly Song Academy? Lin Chen? Is he the Lin Chen who made a name for himself in the Sacred Sun Palace a while ago? Yes, I remember now. I heard that the young master of Eternal Rain Palace, Yu Junxing, was screwed over by this kid. Tisk tsk, no wonder Heavenly Song Academy protected him. This kid's talent is amazing. I'm afraid that he will soon grow into someone who is on par with the Holy Sun. After this battle on the Abyss Island, Lin Chen's name would shake the spiritual state under the witness of all the masters present. After some negotiations, the Bai family finally compromised with the Lung family and Heavenly Song Academy. Forget it. Since the Bai family is in the wrong, there is nothing to say about today's matter. You are Lin Chen, right? Remember, there will be no second time. If you dare to offend the Bai family again, even the Lung family and Heavenly Song Academy won't be able to protect you. The two elders seemed to have other thoughts. With a flick of their sleeves, the space vortex opened again. Qiying, stay here to appease the sellers. We will take the Holy Sun Tianqi back to heal his wounds. The black and white elders instructed indifferently. Qiying, with blood on the corner of her mouth, sheathed her sword and immediately cupped her fists to accept the order. Before Bai Tianqi left, he glared angrily at Lin Chen. Instead, Lin Chen smiled like a rose and waved his hand to bid him farewell. "Little brother Qi Tianqi, you are so despicable." Seeing Bai Tianqi gnashing his teeth in anger at Lin Chen before leaving, everyone couldn't help but look at Lin Chen in confusion. "Why are you looking at me?" He said it himself. If I could go back today, he would read his name backwards. Aren't I still alive and well? That's why I reminded him out of kindness, Lin Chen said shyly. The white-robed lowly snorted and burst out laughing. "Ahahaha! I can't take it anymore. This kid is too much to my liking. How about I make him my disciple, ha ha ha." Elder Bai Mei patted Lin Chen's shoulder and said meaningfully, "Lin Chen, kid, you were too reckless this time. Why didn't you tell the Elders Guild first? If it wasn't for old Yuan reporting to us in a hurry, wouldn't you have died in this Abyss Island?" Lin Mao glanced at the elder and said indifferently, "The culprit behind all this is your precious child. Long Xiangyu is the one who caused all this. Are you going to punish him for me?" Hearing Lin Chen's answer, Elder Bai Mei's expression showed a trace of embarrassment. At the mention of Long Xiangyu, Lin Chen's eyes suddenly became particularly sharp. He turned and stared in the direction of the Abyss Island. No need to look, he has already left. A few days ago, when I was waiting for you here, a young man with good strength left the ancient pagoda. He must be the Long Xiangyu you mentioned. Bai Ruoyan secretly transmitted her voice. Lin Chen couldn't help but grit his teeth. Damn it, I let that bastard run away. Just as he finished cursing, he suddenly felt weak and almost collapsed. Lin Chen's face was slightly pale. Lin Chen, are you alright? The yellow-cloved fatty from the Lung family supported Lin Chen. It wasn't difficult to see the worry and anxiety in his eyes. I'm fine. I just need to rest for a few days. Elder, I'm not surprised that someone from the academy came. Elder, why did you come? Did something happen to my teacher Yuechi? Speaking of Ling Yuechi, Lin Chen's expression showed a rare trace of nervousness. Bai Ruoyan, who saw this, raised her eyebrows slightly. Chapter 298. No, you've misunderstood. I'm here to invite you to represent the Ling family and participate in the Holy Fire level with the other prodigies of the Ling family. The yellow-clad fatty from the Ling family spoke sincerely and solemnly. Holy Fire level? A flash of understanding appeared in Lin Chen's heart. He had indeed promised the Ling clan that he would lend them a helping hand when necessary. Lin Chen had indeed heard of the Holy Fire level. It was a grand event that only the ancient families could participate in. Those who entered the Holy Fire level would have the opportunity to qualify for the Holy Fire baptism. Those who received the Holy Fire baptism would become the next Holy Son and Saintess. The prodigies who could enter the Holy Fire level were only second to the Holy Son and Saintess of the ancient families. They were a group of prospective Holy Sons and Saintesses. The alchemy festival that Lin Chen had participated in was directly related to the Holy Fire level. Because he had helped Han Xiun win the alchemy festival, the Han family had obtained 2 opportunities to enter the Holy Fire level. This was also the reason why the entire Han family was deeply grateful to Lin Chen. The eyes of the 2 from the Sky Song Academy lit up when they heard the Ling family elder's suggestion. The Sky Song Academy also had a quota for the Holy Fire level. Initially, they had planned to leave a quota for Lin Chen. Now, it seemed that if Lin Chen accepted the Ling family's invitation, they would be able to save a quota. Not only would they save a quota, but they would also be able to let their own students enter the Holy Fire level. This was a win-win situation. The yellow-clad fatty rubbed his hands nervously as he waited for Lin Chen's reply. He had rushed to the Sky Demon Sea area and witnessed Lin Chen's ability with his own eyes. He was more fortunate than anyone that the Ling family had chosen Lin Chen. With Lin Chen's current ability, he was definitely qualified to lead the declining Ling family to compete with the other prodigies of the ancient families. Alright, since the Ling family has come here, I won't go back on my word. I'll represent the Ling family and participate in the Holy Fire level battle if I don't go. Lin Chen grinned. His eyes were filled with an undying sense of pride. This decision made the 3 Yuan venerates present heave a sigh of relief. If that's the case, let's depart now. The Holy Fire level event is happening soon. The yellow-cloved fatty smiled cheerfully. Lin Chen was slightly surprised. You're leaving so soon? That's fast. The invitation letter I sent to you a month ago has already been sent to the academy. Who knew that you wouldn't rest for even a moment after returning to the academy? The white-clothed lowly helplessly rolled her eyes. She was extremely cute. Brother Lin Chen, since you're joining the Holy Fire level, it's time for me to leave and do my own thing. At that moment, Bai Ruoyan smiled faintly from the side. The Holy Fire level could not allow powerhouses above the Yuan Venerate level to enter. Even if she accompanied Lin Chen, it would only increase the risk of the Bai family and the Ling family falling out. Previously, when she fought with Qi Ying of the Bai family, She had been very careful to avoid using the Bai family's cultivation method, which allowed her to avoid being seen through. Sister Ruoyan, you have to be careful, Lin Chen said worriedly. Bai Ruoyan only smiled gracefully and her figure dispersed like smoke, disappearing into the void. The two from the Sky Song Academy stared in the direction Bai Ruoyan had left, especially the white-clothed lowly, who seemed to be deep in thought. Big brother, are we going to part so soon? Bai Juanhao and the others flew over and asked somewhat reluctantly. Don't worry, it's settled this time. I will avenge all the losses you suffered. I have left some points in the academy for all of you. Becoming stronger is the most important thing. Lin Chen smiled sincerely. When he extended his fist, everyone's fists lightly bumped, indicating that they had agreed to Lin Chen's request. Little guy, don't worry. From today onwards, no one will bully them in the academy. If they lose a single strand of hair, you can look for me, Meng Qianma. The white-clothed lowly patted her chest and promised. With the assurance of the academy's higher-ups, Lin Chen felt reassured. After absorbing the ancient azure dragon into his body, Lin Chen and the yellow-clothed fatty left the divine monster sea territory. Holy fire level, it seems like it will be very lively this time. Let's go back and prepare. Elder Bai Mei stroked his beard and smiled. The banquet this time would gather all the young people in the spiritual state who were second only to the saints and saintesses. It would usher in a once-in-a-century peak confrontation. Of course, the Sky Song Academy would not be absent from such a banquet. Elder Bai Mei led Bai Juanhao and the others back to the Sky Song Academy, leaving behind the noisy crowd on Black Abyss Island. Lin Chen was sitting cross-legged on the back of a battle-chi rock that was flying at an extremely high speed in the space tunnel that was filled with colorful flowing light. His face was pale, but he held his breath and focused his mind. After recuperating his battle aura, Lin Chen opened the system. Heavenly Tao Possession System Version 3. 0 Host. Lin Chen Cultivation Level. Early Stage of Heaven Star Border Stage 6 Limit Strength. 1510 Dragon Power Chi and Blood Energy. 185. 397 billion points Battle Aura Essence. 215. 944 million points Spiritual Power. 4. 98 million points. Late Stage of Spirit Transformation, Cultivation Method Essence. 55. 1 million points Cultivation Method. Advanced Blue Rank 10,000 Mountains Armor Cultivation Method. 9 Calamities of Creation, 80%, Cultivation Method. Taisher Bible, 70%. Shura 9 Brilliance Change, incomplete. Sanqing Spiritual Water Seal, Demonic Thunder, Freezing Sky Finger. Bloodline Energy, maximum of 3 types, Azure Dragon Bloodline, 50,000 points. Violet Golden Pupil Bloodline, 10,000 points. Characteristic Rune. Slow Rune Level 3, Corrosion Rune Level 3, Recharge Rune Level 3, Phantom Rune Fragment, 1/3, Rune Energy. 58 million points. Various Elemental Energy. Fire 90. 9 million points, Earth 93. 5 million points, Wood 81. 4 million points, Metal 91. 4 million points, Water 92. 21 million points. Thunder 100 million points, Wind 97 million points, Light 60. 21 million points, Dark 89. 91 million points. Although the Abyss Spear is at the peak of rank 5, after the battle between Fu Wanquan and Bai Tianqi, it lost 90% of its power and can't be used anymore. If it can't be repaired, my ability will be limited. System, I want to cultivate the 10,000 Mountains Armor. The system consumed 35 million cultivation method essence and is now transmitting the advanced blue rank defensive combat technique, 10,000 Mountains Armor. New memories flooded into Lin Chen's mind. If Lin Chen used the advanced blue rank 10,000 Mountains Armor, he would reach an unprecedented peak since he could transform his battle aura into a special earth elemental bloodline. It could not be more fitting to describe it as tailor-made. In these 7 days of hurrying on the road, Lin Chen was practically in a cultivation state all the time. 7 days later, the Sky Monster Sea territory was extremely far away from Lin Chen's destination. It was more than 1,000,000 miles away. During these 7 days, he had completely recovered from the weakness caused by the Shura 9 brilliance change. After crossing the southern region of the spiritual state, the yellow-clothed fatty traveled at full speed and brought Lin Chen to a ruined ancient city. The square in the ruined ancient city was where all the young prodigies of the current generation of the ancient families gathered. Chapter 299. Phew! I finally made it. The yellow-robed fatty was sweating profusely as he removed the battle chi rock and placed Lin Chen outside the white jade plaza. "All right, Lin Chen, you can go in by yourself?" Lin Chen looked around curiously. When he activated his purple-gold eyes, he realized that there were countless heaven and earth luck surrounding the entire plaza. These were all the luck that belonged to Li Yi and the others. It was so dense that it made Lin Chen click his tongue in wonder. The geniuses present were all younger than 50 years old. Most of them were at Heaven Star Border Stage 7 and above. Their appearances and temperaments were excellent, and they were all dragons and phoenixes among men. Every word they spoke was filled with arrogance and disdain. The young men and women in the plaza were all elites from the ancient families. Lin Chen stepped into the white jade plaza and saw a gigantic desolate gate that stretched for tens of thousands of feet. It was like a giant gate that connected to the heavens. Other than that, Lin Chen's eyes shone brighter and brighter. Around the desolate gate, there were countless attribute light balls and dozens of golden treasure chests floating in the air, as expected of a gathering of geniuses. "Damn it, I'm going to be rich this time." Lin Chen swallowed his saliva and was about to let go of his hands to pick up the treasures. "Lin Chen, over here? Class monitor, why are you only here now?" The moment Lin Chen stepped into the plaza, Han Yiji and Han Ziyun were waving at him from a few thousand meters away. Other than that, there was also a cold and beautiful woman standing in the crowd. When she saw Lin Chen, it was as if a 10,000-year-old iceberg had melted. She smiled seductively and quietly. "Lin Chen?" Hearing Han Yiji and Han Ziyun shout, the hundreds of geniuses nearby all turned to look at Lin Chen. This name was already quite famous among the younger generation of the ancient families. Just the fact that Lin Chen helped Han Ziyun defeat so many geniuses at the alchemy ceremony was enough to attract their attention. Many gazes of surprise, doubt, curiosity, disdain, and jealousy landed on Lin Chen. Some of the heavens' prides even sneered. Because Lin Chen had entered a weakened state after using the Azura 9 Brilliance transformation, he did not have the time to use the myriad layered fire web arts again. Therefore, his cultivation was exposed in front of everyone. "He's Lin Chen? Where did this clown come from? Heaven Dipper Realm Level 6? Ah. Looks like the Grand Medicine Refinement Ceremony wasn't that great. Even trash like him could stand out. Look at this combination is simply amazing." The Han family, which has already been kicked out of the ranks of the ancient families, and the Lung family, which is ranked at the bottom with only 10 spots, are all gathered together. They waited for a long time for a Heaven Dipper Realm 6th layer? Any one of the ancient families present could easily defeat them. Ah! 4 or 5 of the Bai clan's prodigies couldn't help but burst into laughter. Many of the other prodigies looked at the Han and Ling clans with pity in their eyes. "Tsk. Ripples appeared in the air as a terrifying soul attack swept towards the direction of the 5 Bai clan prodigies like a hurricane. Boom! The soul attack was extremely fast. The 5 of them were caught off guard and were forced to retreat. Their faces turned extremely pale in an instant. 2 of them even knelt down with one knee on the spot. Their bodies twitched slightly as they foamed at the mouth. Lin Chen walked over and casually reached out to catch 3 attribute light balls. He patted the Bai clan's prodigy, who knelt down on one knee and laughed mockingly. Friend, although I'm invincible in the 9 states, you don't have to be so courteous to me since it's our first meeting. Lin Chen's actions angered the Bai clan's prodigies, and their killing intent was revealed. Suddenly, an even more shocking killing intent locked onto Lin Chen. It attracted everyone's attention. A young man in white slowly walked towards Lin Chen. It was Ning Lanfeng from the Ning clan. When the two of them brushed past each other, Ning Lanfeng warned with a murderous aura. You're Lin Chen, right? The Holy Fire Realm is not a competition of alchemy. When the time comes, I'll make you walk in and crawl out. After saying that, Ning Lanfeng brushed past each other and was about to leave. Suddenly, a young palm landed on his shoulder. When he turned his head, the space distorted. Boom! A hurricane rose and a fist wind that could flatten the entire world slammed towards Ning Lanfeng's face. The prodigy's expressions changed slightly. No one expected Lin Chen to be so domineering as to attack on the spot. Ning Lanfeng immediately used a defensive combat technique. He even condensed his battle aura and punched towards Lin Chen's chest. Clang! Ning Lanfeng's fist wind was intercepted in midair. A grayish-green rock armor appeared in front of Lin Chen and protected his chest. Ning Lanfeng, who was at Heaven Star Border Stage 8, was unable to cause any damage to Lin Chen. However, Lin Chen's pure strength was not soft cotton. He punched through Ning Lanfeng's battle aura defense. Bang! The fist landed heavily on Ning Lanfeng's handsome face, causing his teeth and nose to bleed. He was sent flying hundreds of meters away. Lin Chen sneered as he caught the 5 attribute light balls that Ning Lanfeng dropped with one hand. You still want to walk in and crawl out? What are you pretending to be? If you have the guts today, you can take down your brother Chen right here and then say something fierce. Whoosh! The prodigies of the ancient families were in an uproar. No one expected Lin Chen to be so domineering as to attack in the ancient city. This was an example that was explicitly prohibited. It was possible that the quota would be revoked. Lin Chen had no taboos. You guys were arrogant, but I was even more arrogant. Along the way, Lin Chen had seen too many monstrous prodigies. These guys thought highly of themselves and looked down on everyone else. To deal with them, one's fist was strong enough. The prodigies of the Bai family were even more shocked. There was no way they were mistaken about the defensive battle technique that Lin Chen had just used. That was the famous technique of the Bai family, the Myriad Mountains Xian armor. Lin Chen, where did you come from? Why did the Yuexuan armor of the Bai family's holy son appear on you? Without a second thought, Lin Chen blurted out, Bai Tianqi? I beat him up. Is there a problem? The prodigies of the ancient families nearby could not help but twitch their mouths when they heard this. Beat up the holy son? How dare you brag about this? Aren't you afraid of biting your tongue? Lin Chen, you? Ning Lanfeng was humiliated in front of everyone. As he got up and was about to retaliate against Lin Chen, a figure blocked his way. Lanfeng, if there's anything, wait until you've reached holy fire level. The green-robed man's face was chiseled. There was a calm and condensed sharpness between his brows, like a battle sword with a hidden edge. Brother Yunlan, this person is not simple. You may not be his opponent. Do you want to humiliate yourself in front of everyone? Ning Yunlan glanced at him and said indifferently. Ning Lanfeng gritted his teeth, trembling with anger. At this moment, thousands of meters away, 2 mysterious figures leaning on the green pillars snickered. That's the legendary Lin Chen? Interesting. He obviously beat someone up, but the elders hiding in the dark did not stop him. It seems like what the elders said is true. This Lin Chen is worth roping in. Chapter 300. The conflict between the Ning and Bai families and Lin Chen was just a small interlude. The prides of the ancient families did not pay much attention to it. At most, They were curious as to why the elders did not stop Lin Chen from causing trouble. Although the ability that Lin Chen displayed was extraordinary, it was nothing to the prides. This was because there was no lack of geniuses with extraordinary abilities here. He picked up a golden treasure chest in the air and the system screen popped up. You have opened a pure gold treasure chest. You have obtained 3 golden dragon vitality fruit. Picking up attribute light balls along the way, Lin Chen happily smiled as he walked towards the Han clan and Ling clan. You still like to cause trouble. You're still smiling so happily after causing trouble. Ling Yueqi rolled her eyes at Lin Chen helplessly. However, seeing him walking towards her with a smile on his face, Ling Yueqi's green eyes revealed a rare tenderness. Ling Yueqi lifted her slender hand and helped Lin Chen tidy up his clothes. The prides of the Ling family were dumbfounded. The icy beauty of Ling Yu's family in the past had actually become such a delicate woman? This has nothing to do with me. They're the ones who are jealous of my good looks. Lin Chen shrugged his shoulders. The mysterious relationship between the both of them made Han Ziyun's heart ache. She pouted her cherry lips. The smart Ling Yueqi immediately noticed that something was amiss. She smirked dangerously and whispered into Lin Chen's ear. If you flirt with girls again, I'll freeze your legs so that they won't have the chance to do anything. Ling Yueqi's eyebrows were like the moon, and there was no lack of a dangerous aura in her cold and elegant smile. A certain Lin's lower body felt cold, and he said with an embarrassed smile, "That, Teacher Yueqi, it's not my fault that I'm too handsome, right? Don't be so glib. You can't be like before when you enter the holy fire level. It's different this time. All the most powerful geniuses from the ancient families are here. It's not good to offend any of them." Ling Yueqi's advice caused a rare serious expression to appear on Lin Chen's face. The ancient families had accumulated over hundreds of thousands of years. No one knew what kind of monstrous level genius they would raise. Lin Chen had heard from Bai Ruoyan that the minimum requirement to become a holy son was to have the ability of a Yuan venerate. Lin Chen would not be complacent just because he had fought Bai Tianqi once. On the contrary, it had deepened his vigilance against the ancient families. He knew that Bai Tianqi's true ability was far more than that. Teacher Yueqi is right, class monitor. The ones we should be most wary of are the 4 heavenly kings. Han Yizhi nodded her head. She pointed to the 4 figures in the square. Lin Chen narrowed his eyes. These 4 people were the ones who attracted the most attention. They were the 4 Yus. The first person standing behind the elites was a handsome young man in a snow-white robe with a jade-like face. His sword had not been unsheathed, but 3,000 sword gleams hung behind him like the scorching sun. He had a disdainful smile on his face, as if no one present was worthy of his attention. The second person had 2 blood-red battle axes strapped to her slender waist. Her figure was hot and enchanting. Her red lips were like blazing fire, and her black eyebrows were curved. Her bronze skin exuded an exotic beauty. She was actually a red-clothed beauty with a sexy figure. Her waist and figure looked slender, but under that bronze skin, there was a terrifying power hidden. The third person wore a feathered crown. He had a delicate face and a cold expression, like an iceberg that would not melt for thousands of years. The most mysterious thing about him was his pair of gray eyes. Almost no one dared to look directly into them. They were brewing an endless spiritual storm that could make people lose their minds with just a glance. The fourth person was a handsome young man. This young man was really worthy of being called a handsome young man. He was wearing a light green robe. His eyebrows were picturesque, his lips were red, and his eyes were like stars. He held a white feather fan in his hand, and his slender figure attracted the attention of both men and women. His charming appearance made even Lin Che concede defeat. The handsome young man pursed his lips and smiled. He had 2 small dimples on his cheeks, which made him look extremely charming. In terms of looks and temperament, perhaps only Han Yizhi could compare to him. This was perhaps the most handsome man Lin Chen had ever seen. Just as Lin Chen was suspecting that the other party was a woman dressed as a man, the peerless young master's neck had a slightly protruding Adam's apple, which broke Lin Chen's suspicions. Han Yizhi introduced the 4 heavenly kings of the ancient families one by one to Lin Chen. Every one of them had a quasi-venerate cultivation base. The difference between the Heaven Dipper realm and the Yuan Venerate was the Dantian and the Yuan Venerate. The Yuan Venerate could contain the minor laws of heaven and earth, while the Heaven Dipper realm only integrated one's battle chi into the realm and had the basic ability to control space. This was like an archer who was proficient in archery and a cannon operator who carried extremely high-quality explosive. Since ancient times, no Heaven Dipper realm had been able to challenge a Yuan Venerate. No matter how strong a Heaven Dipper realm was, they were just slightly stronger ants in front of a Yuan Venerate. They were on completely different levels. A Quasi-Venerate was a powerhouse between the Heaven Dipper realm and the Yuan Venerate. The Heaven Dipper battle soul in their Dantian had started to transform into a Yuan Venerate but had yet to complete the transformation. They were much stronger than a Heaven Dipper realm cultivator, but there was still a certain distance between them and the Yuan Venerate. This type of powerhouse was a Quasi-Venerate. Before Han Yizhi could finish her introduction to Lin Chen, Lin Che had already left. He couldn't help but start collecting the attribute light balls floating in the entire plaza. Lin Chen leaped 10 meters into the air. With a wave of his hand, he picked up more than 20 multicolored attribute light balls in the air. Host has received 3 billion points of battle chi essence, 500,000 points of rune energy, 5 billion points of blood energy, and 1 million points of water energy. When he landed, another golden treasure chest appeared. Lin Chen reached out and opened it. Host has opened the golden treasure chest. You have received a top-notch tier 5 elixir triple green recovery pill. Another round of gold and red attribute light balls appeared. Lin Chen couldn't help but grin. His random looting attracted the attention of many geniuses. Host has received 5 million points of metal energy, 150,000 points of mind power, 800,000 points of fire energy, 300,000 points of rune energy. Lin Chen ignored the curiosity and doubts of many geniuses and started looting in the air. The quality of the attribute light balls here was extremely high. They were second only to the ones dropped by Lin Chen during his battle with Bai Tianqi. This feels great. These are all the geniuses of the ancient families with the highest standard. Every attribute light ball has a considerable value. Lin Chen was ecstatic. Although they couldn't be compared to the saints, there were many of them. Lin Chen had picked up a total of 17 attribute light balls from Bai Tianqi. There were at least a few hundred of them here. Why is this kid smirking over there? Could there be something wrong with his head? Hey, is this guy crazy? He's actually walking towards the 4 heavenly kings. Chapter 301. Lin Dong was picking up items along the way. Sensing that his 9-colored battle spirit was about to break through, he hurriedly activated the myriad layer fire web to cover his entire body, sealing his battle chi. Host has received 8 billion battle chi essences, 5 billion battle chi essences, 6 billion blood chi energy, 3 billion blood chi energy. Boom! Lin Chen's battle 4 battle spirits rotated, emitting a stronger battle chi than before. In less than a quarter of an hour, his battle chi had entered the middle stage of level 6. Only then did he come back to his senses. He had already picked up all the attribute light balls and was standing in front of the 4 heavenly kings. When he raised his head, the red-robed woman with the dual axes was also staring at him in bewilderment. Their gazes met. Lin Chen's eyes lit up and he said seriously, "So it's Miss Yi Yanxia, one of the 4 heavenly kings of the ancient families. I've long heard of your name. This one is Lin Chen. It's my honor to meet you." As he spoke, Lin Chen smiled and extended his hand, making a handshake gesture. Yi Yanxia had a straightforward personality, and as one of the 4 heavenly kings, she didn't stand on ceremony. She extended her hand and shook Lin Chen's hand, smiling. So it's Prince Lin Chen. Yanxia has heard a little about what happened at the alchemy festival. Unbeknownst to her, only Lin Chen could see that at the moment his palm came into contact with Yi Yanxia's lily-white hand, countless blood-red attribute light balls rapidly emerged from the beautiful woman's lily-white hand, merging into Lin Chen's palm. Host has received 18 billion blood qi energy. Host has received 13 billion blood qi energy. Lin Chen's blood qi energy soared rapidly, and his dragon power grew like a hot knife through butter. In the blink of an eye, his dragon power broke through 1,500 points. Holy shit, this feels good. This girl's body refinement realm is extremely high, and the attribute light balls on her body are not simple. Lin Dong was so happy that he couldn't bear to let go of Yi Yanxia's hand. Instead, he tightened his grip. Oh! Yi Yanxia's eyes flashed, as if she had sensed that Lin Chen was also a body refinement martial artist. Moreover, she had misunderstood that Lin Chen was trying to test her. She couldn't help but curl up the corners of her mouth into a battle-thirsty smile as she suddenly exerted strength in her palm. Bang! Crack! Crack! The moment Yi Yanxia exerted her strength, the space around her began to twist and distort. The ground of the plaza, which was as solid as jade, began to crack and crack. The surrounding geniuses were so shocked that they immediately retreated. This kid is actually competing with Yi Yanxia of the 4 heavenly kings in pure strength? What a joke! Yi Yanxia's pure strength was an existence that could even defeat a quasi-venerable expert. He's courting death. Many of the Sky Prides were both curious and shocked. This Lin Chen seemed to be hiding a lot. Host has received 10 billion points of vitality energy, 19 billion points of vitality energy. The moment Yi Yanxia exerted her strength, Lin Chen's attributes soared even faster. However, Yi Yanxia's abilities were extraordinary. She used 2,000 dragon power points the moment she attacked. Lin Chen could only rely on the pure strength of the ancient azure dragon to defend himself. 1,800, 1,900 dragon power points. Lin Chen's own pure strength increased rapidly through the attribute light balls that continuously appeared in Yi Yanxia's hands. That's the support medicine refiner who shone brightly during the alchemy festival, Lin Chen? Yes, that's right. Looks like his mental strength is not inferior to us old fellows. There should be no mistake about it. What a fellow! Not only is he extremely talented in medicine refinement, he's also a body refinement cultivator. Interesting. For this information, I paid a heavy price to obtain it from some of the opportunists in the Han family. He's not from the Ling family or the Han family, and he's not from an ancient family. Looks like he's indeed worth roping in. This is a medicine refinement seedling that even old man Bai thinks highly of. In a dilapidated loft outside the plaza, a group of ancient family elders were discussing and sizing up Lin Chen. That's Lin Chen, the one who's been in the limelight recently? In a corner on the south side of the plaza, 12 silhouettes were sizing up Lin Chen in shock. These 12 people were the blue merit level geniuses from the Sky Song Academy who were going to the Holy Fire level. One of them was someone who was as famous as Fu Wanquan, Yi Juesheng, and Long Xiangyu. He was one of the 4 geniuses who was most likely to become a purple merit level genius. Mo Feng, who was in the middle of the crowd, flicked his fingernails and sneered. Looks like he's just a medicine refiner with some brute strength. If he dares to disobey us in the Holy Fire level, we'll kill him on the spot. In the plaza, Lin Chen and Yi Yanxia were still shaking hands. His dragon power is almost 3,500, and he can still catch up with me. Looks like he's not just for show. Yi Yanxia was interested. His pure strength was more than enough to fight an ordinary mid-stage Heaven Star Border level 9. Just when she was about to exert her strength again, she realized that Lin Chen had loosened his grip. Looks like Mr. Lin Chen isn't just for show. Yanxia looks forward to meeting you in the Holy Fire level. Yi Yanxia smiled faintly as they separated their palms. Lin Chen said with a smile. Miss Yi Yanxia's reputation is well deserved. I, Lin Mao, concede defeat. This strength is strong enough. As he spoke, he looked at the beauty's chest and said seriously, it's also big enough. Why are you so reckless? I just told you not to cause trouble, and you went to test Yi Yanxia. Leng Yueqi frowned and scolded Lin Chen. Lin Chen, are you all right? Han Xiun asked worriedly. Don't worry, I'm fine. Hee, Ms. Yueqi, don't be angry. I've gained a lot from this trip. Although Lin Chen had a cheeky smile on his face, his eyes were filled with excitement. After picking up all the attribute light balls in the square, his strength had increased by another level. The ancient Azure Dragon's pure strength had increased to 3,900 dragon power. His own pure strength had broken through 2,100 dragon power. Glancing at the more than 100 million points of rune energy in the system, Lin Chen was looking forward to the Holy Fire level trial. With 100 million points of rune energy, Lin Chen was confident that he could fight anyone below the Yuan Venerate level. An hour after Lin Chen arrived at the plaza, two gray-robed elders appeared in front of the giant door and said slowly, "The time is up. Listen up, everyone. In the Holy Fire level, your life is in your own hands. Also, a Yuan Venerate's cultivation base can't enter the Holy Fire level. If you're discovered, the Heavenly Tao rules in the Holy Fire level will automatically kill you. If you break through to the Yuan Venerate level in the secret territory, you'll be sent out automatically. The Holy Sun isn't the only way to become a powerhouse. There's a limit to the number of Holy Fire seeds left in the Holy Fire level. It'll be great if you can find your own situation in the Holy Fire level. Only those who survive can become legends. Kids, try your best to survive in the Holy Fire level." The two gray-robed elders gave their advice. When their palms touched the giant door, the two sides of the door opened slowly. A spatial tunnel leading to the distance appeared in the giant door. The prodigies could not wait any longer. With a tap of their toes, they rushed into the spatial tunnel. Countless prodigies rushed into the Holy Fire level. Chapter 302. Let's Go To. With Lin Chen in the lead, Leng Yueqi, Han Xiun, and Han Yizhi entered together. Not far from them, the Ling family's prodigies glanced at Leng Yueqi and the rest in disdain. In reality, the Ling family hoped that Lin Chen could join forces with their prodigies and obtain something in the Holy Fire territory. However, the Leng family's prodigies were very repulsed by Lin Chen, an outsider, and Leng Yueqi, who was promoted from a branch family. They did not want to be associated with them at all. Look out for each other? I think the elders are crazy. Why would the Leng family need an outsider to look out for us? When we obtain the Holy Fire Seed, we'll be the new Holy Son of the Leng family. With a tap of their toes, the Ling family's prodigies followed closely behind Lin Chen and flew into the space tunnel. The 4 heavenly kings and the 10 prodigies below them rushed into the giant space door one after another. In just 20 breaths, all the ancient prodigies had disappeared, leaving only the elders waiting outside the square. As they entered the pitch-black tunnel, Lin Chen was fully focused and prepared. The weightlessness under his feet was extremely severe, and the surrounding space was constantly shifting and changing. In less than 15 minutes, the scene in front of them suddenly blurred. Lin Chen and the rest suddenly stood still. He and Leng Yueqi and the rest had arrived at a desert. Apart from that, there were 11 other prodigies from different families who landed with Lin Chen and the rest. 2 transparent mirrors hung upside down in the sky, reflecting the image of a vast ocean. Oh no! Seeing this, Ling Yueqi and Han Ziyun's expressions changed slightly at the same time. We've been transported to the mirror projection space. Lin Chen was puzzled. What's a mirror projection space? This is the most difficult and possibly the easiest secret zone to enter the Holy Fire territory. A few sky prides beside Lin Chen took over the conversation with solemn expressions. This mirror projection space will randomly create a clone of someone who enters the Holy Fire territory. The clone will have the same cultivation base and techniques as the original, Ling Yueqi said solemnly. The other prodigies who had arrived at the desert with Lin Chen and the others were on guard. There's such a mystic realm? I wonder if I can project a clone of myself. Brother Chen, I haven't fought with myself before. Just as Lin Chen was fantasizing with great interest, a lightning-like beam of light came crashing down. Boom! In the barren desert, the smoke of war rose from all directions. A slender young figure slowly walked out of the smoke. This figure was not a real living being. His entire body was covered in a pitch-black luster, and he held a white feather fan in his hand. His facial features were extremely handsome, and there was a hint of otherworldly elegance in his elegance. However, only his spiritless eyes let others know that he was not the real person. This scene caused the expressions of everyone present, except for Lin Chen, to change. It was actually one of the 4 heavenly kings, Luo Qingyu. This was definitely the worst draw. Perhaps all of them would perish here. Oh, so it's that peerless young master. On the other hand, a certain Lin was calm and composed. He suddenly realized something. At this moment, 15 prodigies formed a group, and similar scenes kept playing out in every mirror space. Some people were exceptionally happy when they encountered ordinary mirror clones, and they could pass the stage immediately. Some people encountered the 4 heavenly kings or the 10 great prodigies below the heavenly kings, and their faces were almost ashen. However, what was more noteworthy was in a certain mystic realm. In a primeval forest, there was a prehistoric aura. Since the teams that entered the secret realm were completely random, there were 4 prodigies from the Lung clan, 4 from the Ning clan, 4 from the Bai clan, and 3 from the Heavenly Song Academy who were at the blue merit rank. This included Mo Feng, who had the highest chance of becoming a purple merit ranker and was known as one of the top 10 geniuses. Ning Lanfeng from the Ning family was no exception. It's actually a mirror space. Ning Lanfeng looked up at the sky and exclaimed. With Brother Yunlan, one of the 10 great prodigies, and Mo Feng from the Heavenly Song Academy, as long as we don't encounter the mirror clones of the 4 heavenly kings, we shouldn't have any problems. Another prodigy from the Ning family smiled confidently. As soon as he finished speaking, a lightning-like beam of light came crashing down. Bang! A young figure that was as dark as the abyss slowly appeared. He held a black spear in his hand and looked extraordinarily handsome. There was a cynical smile on his face. Even though his eyes had lost their spirit, it still could not hide the flirtatious smile at the corner of his mouth. The most eye-catching thing was his cultivation base of mid-stage Heaven Star Border Level 6. When he released it, everyone was a little shocked. Huh? Heaven Star Border Level 6? It's Lin Chen? Alright, it's settled this time. We've passed the mirror space. I can't believe we encountered this piece of trash. Let's kill his clone first. I'll beat him up when I reach Holy Fire level. Heavenly Star Hand. Ning Lanfeng was the first to attack. He slapped his palm in the air, his battle aura surging like a nebula, breaking apart a gigantic hand of stars that was thousands of feet long. Whoosh! Bang! The sound was like a tide. A pair of purple flame wings appeared behind Lin Chen's clone. Suddenly, it cut through the sound waves and easily dodged the gigantic hand of stars. What kind of speed is that? Bang! Like a ghost, it appeared above Ning Lanfeng's head. The speed of Lin Chen's clone was so fast that it was shocking. He raised his black spear high. 3 types of battle aura, wind, thunder, and dark, were activated in an instant. A wild thunder meteor smashed onto Ning Lanfeng's head. Don't underestimate your enemy! Ning Yunlan's movement technique was extremely fast. He arrived at Ning Lanfeng's position in a single step and pulled him away. In an instant, he threw a thunderous punch and collided head-on with the tip of Lin Chen's spear. Bang! Lightning flashed, the ground shook, and the entire wild forest surged. The clouds were scattered by the lightning. In the clear sky, there was a hint of murderous intent. There was a trace of blood on Ning Yunlan's fist. The Bai family's prodigies and Mo Feng from the Heavenly Song Academy raised their eyebrows subconsciously. Ning Yunlan suddenly shouted, "Extremely strong movement technique and pure strength. In addition, he has the Bai family's 1,000 Mountain Xian armor, which is a super strong defensive combat technique. Don't underestimate this Lin Chen. His strength is not simple." Those who had previously looked down on Lin Chen all put away their inner contempt. Although it was unexpected, to be able to lightly injure Ning Yunlan, one of the top 10 prodigies, this kind of strength was not ordinary. In the next moment, a dragon's roar shook the sky. An ancient azure dragon turned into a ray of green light from Lin Chen's body and appeared out of nowhere. The prodigies of the Bai family and Ling family all turned pale. An ancient azure dragon? How is this possible? Didn't they say that this mirror space would only project the intruder's clone? Could this ancient azure dragon also be a part of Lin Chen? How is this possible? Is he a dragon? If he's a dragon, then his body should be the one that becomes the azure dragon. The prodigies of the 2 families could not calm down. Only the people from the Heavenly Song Academy were deep in thought. Then, they suddenly understood. Chapter 303. Hades / Dragon Demon Claw. Judgment or 10 ultimate slashes. Strange phenomena appeared in the sky as colorful battle auras caused the space to distort and crack. The attacks were like a tidal wave. The entire secret realm was trembling as if a natural disaster was about to befall. Numerous high-level battle skills locked onto the rapidly flashing figure in the void, as well as the 4 ancient dragons that were close to 30,000 feet long. A prodigy from the Lung clan activated his battle chi, causing the space around him to distort. A demonic dragon claw was aimed at the back of Lin Chen's doppelganger, but it was blocked by the giant defensive armor that looked like a rock mine. The defense of the 1,000 Yuexian armor was indestructible and couldn't break through his defense at all. Swoosh! The clone was as agile as a fish in water. He turned around and stabbed out with his spear. The lightning spear pierced through the air with terrifying pure energy. That prodigy from the Lung clan was shocked. His companions immediately came to support him. The 3 of them blocked Lin Chen's domineering spear and retreated a few thousand meters. Everyone launched a frenzied attack, not giving Lin Chen's doppelganger any chance to rest. Their attacks were like an avalanche that could topple mountains and overturn seas. Lin Chen and the ancient azure dragon's doppelganger dodged nimbly and retaliated fiercely. So strong. It's been 45 minutes, and we haven't caused much damage to him. The prodigy from the Lung clan, who wanted to sneak an attack on Lin Chen's clone, gasped in disbelief. 15 of us are from the younger generation of the ancient families. 2 of us are even the top 10 prodigies of the current generation. Yet, we can't take down a Heaven Star Border Stage 6? Although Ning Yunlan from the Ning clan and Mo Feng from the Sky Song Academy haven't used their full strength and their trump cards are still unfathomable, his strength is too terrifying to be able to hold on for so long without any damage. The 4 prodigies from the Lung clan gasped in disbelief. They finally understood why the Lung clan's elder insisted that everyone cooperate with Lin Chen. His strength was second only to the top 10 prodigies. Ning Yunlan was fighting while sensing the purplish gold glow in the pupils of Lin Chen's clone. Every time a ferocious attack came, the light in his eyes would become brighter. It seems that he has a mysterious eye technique that can see through the secrets of heaven and predict life and death in advance. Looks like I have to make a feint to attract his attention. Ning Yunlan's aura suddenly shook. His mid-stage Heavenly Dipper realm cultivation base was fully revealed, and the attraction force of Lin Chen's clones was concentrated on him. Now, Ning Yunlan shouted coldly, "Golden break forth layer." The golden light flickered and formed 4 energy walls that pressed down from all directions. It sealed Lin Chen's clone and the ancient azure dragon in a narrow space. Let's attack him now. The prodigy of the Bai family that sealed Lin Chen's doppelganger suddenly roared, and 2 afterimages slashed out like blades. Soul-extinguishing finger. Withering blood bead. Ning Yunlan from the Ning family and Mo Feng from the Heavenly Song Academy both used their killer move. 2 alternating fingerprints that were as bright as the sun and moon pierced through the air. Following closely behind was a star jade-like battle light. It carried a hint of withering beauty as it crashed into the man and the dragon behind the 4 golden walls. Rumble! The golden walls shattered, and an energy storm swept across the sky. Just when everyone thought they had succeeded, the young man's cold voice was emotionless. 8 barren lands. The black spear pointed out and the dragon danced in the sky. Green lightning gathered, and 1,000 zhang long thunder dragon pointed out, sweeping across the land. That's a decent battle technique, and the cultivation base is also quite high. Unfortunately, his battle chi cultivation base is still a little weak. Just when Mo Feng was disdainful, Ning Yunlan's expression suddenly changed. Full defense. He still has a backup plan. While all the prodigies were still captivated by the might of the 8 barren dominion, 2,000 meters below Lin Chen, the ancient azure dragon clone, whose dragon scales were slightly cracked, raised its dragon claws angrily and swung them down alternately. Afterimages flashing with green light danced wildly in the sky. The dragon breath light blade was like a fluctuating storm, and it carried a destructive force that could push the galaxy away. It was constantly released from between the dragon claws. No. A few of the geniuses were swallowed by the storm before they could even scream. The earth-shattering dragon breath storm passed through like a typhoon, destroying everything in its path. In the direction where the dragon claws swung, all life within 1,000 miles was destroyed. Everything was cut into pieces by the dragon breath blades. When the ancient green dragon had 2,500 dragon power, it was comparable to a beginner heavenly star border level 9. Before Lin Chen's ancient green dragon entered holy fire level, it already had 3,900 dragon power. It would not be at a disadvantage if it fought with anyone who was at the peak of Heavenly Star Border Level 9. The green dragon soul splitting claw that was released with 3,900 dragon power was so powerful that it could cut through anything below quasi-venerable like tofu. If it was a one-on-one battle, even quasi-venerable powerhouses would have to avoid it. When the green dragon soul splitting claw's power dissipated, there were only 13 people left. Even though the geniuses of the ancient families had a strong foundation and many life-saving trump cards, the Bai family and the Ning family still lost 1 person each. Moreover, they were both late-stage Heavenly Star Border Level 7. Apart from that, the Lung family, the Bai family, the Sky Song Academy, and the Ning family were all injured. Other than the top 10 geniuses, Mo Feng and Ning Yunlan, no one could escape unscathed from the power of that attack. In reality, the situation was even more serious than that. If Mo Feng and Ning Yunlan were not at the forefront of the soul-splitting claw and weakened most of its power, the situation would be even worse. What kind of joke is this? With 2 of the top 10 geniuses here, he can still kill people from the Bai family. Lin Chen? He's so strong. The people from the Bai family were shocked and angry, while the geniuses from the Lung family were scared witless. Ning Yunlan and Mo Feng's expressions were extremely solemn. He already has such strength at Heaven Star Border level 6. If this kid is at the same level as me, won't I not be his opponent? Will it affect my position in the academy? No. I want to kill him completely in this holy fire region before he grows his wings. At this moment, Mo Feng was the first to kill Lin Chen, as expected of someone who could make Saintess Qing Xian remember his name. He's indeed extraordinary. Based on the previous battle, Ning Yunlan had already figured out where the core of Lin Chen's clone's battle was. In terms of mental cultivation, his mental cultivation technique had many different attributes of battle qi, and its power was so strong that even the geniuses who cultivated blue-tier mental cultivation techniques couldn't take advantage of it. Normally, a Heaven Star Border Level 9 martial artist could cripple a Heaven Star Border Level 6 martial artist with a flick of the finger. However, Lin Chen made use of his mental cultivation technique and his pure strength that was as strong as a wild beast to make up for this flaw. Regardless of whether it was close range or long range, his pure strength was the strongest threat. In addition, his strange and unpredictable eye technique allowed him to predict his opponent's movements and intentions, coupled with the explosive speed of his purple phoenix wings and a movement technique of the blue rank and above, as well as the indestructible defense of the myriad mountains Xian armor. This kind of 1+1 didn't equal 2. His foundation could be said to be a perfect combination of attack, defense, and speed. Not to mention that there was an ancient azure dragon next to him that was hard to find a match for under the quasi-venerable stage. Lin Chen's strength was far beyond everyone's imagination. Chapter 304. As the smoke dispersed, Lin Chen's clone slowly appeared. His left arm was missing, and only his right arm was left holding the black spear in his hand. Obviously, Lin Chen's clone was not unscathed from the previous wave of attacks. However, in reality, it was not difficult for the powerhouses who had seen Lin Chen fight to realize that the clone that was projected from the mirror space was not Lin Chen's full strength. This was because when Lin Chen fought, he would transform his elemental battle aura into a special energy bloodline. However, this clone did not do so at all. Even so, his avatar and the ancient azure dragon were still ridiculously powerful. Your Excellency Mo Feng, if we continue to hide, I'm afraid there will be more casualties on both sides. Ning Yunlan glanced at Mo Feng, who nodded silently and said, "Leave this kid to me. You go and take care of the ancient azure dragon. I'll help you after I've taken care of this guy." As soon as he finished speaking, a flash of golden light appeared in Mo Feng's palm. His speed suddenly increased by more than 3 times. This speed was almost the same as Lin Chen's clone's Hades' 9 hell steps with the help of the purple phoenix wings. Both of them were like shooting stars in the sky, instantly meeting and fighting in a chaotic battle. If that's the case, I'll have to take care of this troublesome azure dragon for now. Ning Yunlan's fists were like a dragon as he violently attacked. His entire body was covered in Buddha's light as if he was an invincible martial Buddha from ancient times. He fought the ancient azure dragon head-on. These 2 top 10 geniuses who were second only to the 4 heavenly kings had finally shown their true strength. The people from the Lung family, the Bai family, and the Sky Song Academy were dazzled. While they yearned for the duo's strength, it was replaced by a deep fear and shock towards Lin Chen. Thinking back to 2 hours ago when he had just entered Holy Fire level, who would have thought that Lin Chen's ability would be so powerful that 2 top 10 geniuses had to besiege him? Looking at Lin Chen and the ancient azure dragon, who were exchanging blows with the 2 great geniuses from afar, the few people from the Bai clan spoke in a trembling voice. Even their hearts were trembling. If it weren't for Mo Feng and Ning Yunlan, I'm afraid all of us here today would have been wiped out by Lin Chen's doppelganger. On the other side, in the desert, More than 10 figures crisscrossed and fought with an elegant figure in light green robes. Lin Chen took the lead. His purple phoenix wings flapped, sweeping up purple flames as he fought with the green-clothed person at close range. His fists, knees, elbows, fingertips, palms, and legs had all turned into lethal weapons. Every move he made landed on Luo Qingyu's body. He did not have the slightest intention of showing mercy to her. Bang! 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 His fists landed on Luo Qingyu's lower abdomen, followed by his left shoulder and waist. Lin Chen's attacks landed on Luo Qingyu continuously. Every part of his body that was hit would have attribute light balls rolling down. When Lin Chen picked them up, his attributes skyrocketed. You've received 7 billion battle aura essence, 9 million water-type energy, 12 billion battle aura essence, 11 billion battle aura essence. Luo Qingyu seemed to be extremely weak in close combat. Facing Lin Chen's fierce attacks, she could only defend herself with all her might. She did not look like one of the 4 heavenly kings at all. The attribute light balls that dropped from her body were all battle aura essence, causing Lin Chen's cultivation level to increase tremendously. Crack! Crack! There was a faint sound of breaking through a bottleneck in his body. Lin Chen's cultivation level had advanced to the later stages of Heaven's Star Border Stage 6. Taking advantage of the gap created by the opponent defending against his kick, Lin Chen raised his hand and slammed it on the opponent's chest. When the palm landed on the opponent's chest, although the battle aura had blocked most of the power, Lin Chen still managed to hit the chest of Luo Qingyu's clone. Lin Ming felt as if his palm had landed on cotton. The soft and tender feeling made him experience what it meant to indulge in silky softness. Lin Chen was suddenly enlightened as he laughed mischievously in his heart. So, Luo Qingyu of the 4 heavenly kings is actually a girl. No wonder this girl is so beautiful that even my brother can't resist her. She's actually a beauty. Luckily, this clone did not have the intelligence and thinking ability of its owner. It only had pure battle awareness. Otherwise, Lin Chen's attack would have provoked the opponent. I didn't expect her to have such a hobby of dressing up as a man. When I'm free, I have to find a secluded place to change her habit. As a good citizen, I have to help her. I can't help it. Brother Chen's character is just too good. Various thoughts flashed across Lin Chen's mind. At this moment, Luo Qingyu crossed her hands in front of her chest as if she had been accumulating power for a long time. Vast water-type energy surged out like huge waves and shrouded the surroundings. In a flash, it formed a water-type cage that was thousands of feet wide, trapping all the surrounding sky prides inside. As if they had received a message in advance, all of them used their ultimate techniques and retreated. Only Lin Chen remained inside. Azura 9 Brilliance Transformation, Heavenly Water Transformation. Lin Chen's cultivation level rose from mid-stage stage 6 to early stage 7. Charging Rune, Frozen Sky Finger. At such a close distance, Lin Chen unleashed his Frozen Sky Finger with all his might and froze all the water-type energy in the water-type cage into frost. He and Luo Qingyu's doppelganger were frozen in ice. Just before they were frozen, Lin Chen's entire body transformed into the special metal-type and earth-type bloodlines. His entire body glowed with golden light and a dirt-red armor. Heavenly Dipper Battle Qi, Wan Yuexian Armor. Lin Chen's 2 major defensive techniques, Heavenly Dipper Battle Qi and Wan Yuexian Armor, were used at the same time. One was used to defend the outside, while the other was used to defend the inside. It was a perfect combination. Freeze him. Let's attack together. When Ling Yueqi pulled her bow, she suddenly shouted. The surrounding sky prides immediately attacked and aimed all their battle techniques at Luo Qingyu's clone on the other side. Fire Luo Sky Covering Palm. Apocalyptic Demon Form. Bai Jun's Finger. Heavenly Light Polar Ice. The 14 of them attacked at the same time. When all kinds of battle chi attacks broke through the ice cage, Luo Qingyu's clone didn't have the chance to dodge anymore. She had to take everyone's attacks head-on. Lin Chen borrowed everyone's strength to break through the ice cage. With 2 types of defensive techniques on his body, he quickly retreated and flew out of the ice cage. Retreat quickly, Han Yizhi said anxiously. Only then did everyone realize that the ancient green dragon on the other side was ready to attack. All of them immediately retreated as if they had seen a ghost. Green dragon soul splitting claw. As the 2 dragon claws swung down alternately, the dragon breath light blade wreaked havoc in the entire arena. It surged violently towards the beautiful woman in the ice cage. This was the strongest attack in the entire arena. It cut Luo Qingyu's clone into pieces. From Lin Chen's perspective, when her clone was destroyed, more than 10 elemental light balls dropped. Most importantly, there was a green-gold treasure chest floating in the air. Congratulations to the host for triggering the special reward system. When the system screen popped up, Lin Chen's eyes were burning with passion. Chapter 305. The emerald treasure chest emitted a dazzling light. If one were to look closely, one could even see that there was a hint of bluish gold mixed within the misty green light. Lin Chen leaped into the air, landing in front of the treasure chest. Stretching out his hand, he opened the treasure chest. A jade shard that flickered with a faint golden light fell into Lin Chen's palm, fusing with his body. You have opened the first emerald treasure chest. You have obtained Phantom Rune Fragment +1, Phantom Rune 2/3. It's a fragment of the Phantom Rune. Lin Chen's expression suddenly became wild with joy. There was another fragment. As long as he picked up another fragment or triggered the next surprise, he would be able to use this trump card rune. Suppressing the ecstasy in his heart, Lin Chen calculated in his heart. I've gained quite a lot this time. The Phantom Rune Fragment, more than 30 million points of water energy, and more than 80 billion points of Battle Aura Essence. My Battle Aura cultivation has broken through a small level. Lin Chen looked at the 120 million points of water energy in the system with satisfaction and could not help but grin. He thought about it and deactivated the Azura 9 Brilliance change. Now, he had completely adapted to the first level of the 9 Brilliance change. Other than the intense consumption of Battle Aura, there would not be any side effect. Brother Lin Chen, I'm Dan Qianxiu from the Dan family. Lin Chen, not only are you accomplished in medicine refinement, but you're also very strong. I'm really impressed. A long-haired beauty in a silver dress that was as cold as snow greeted Lin Chen with a fist salute and a smile. Apart from being polite, there was also a hint of arrogance in her tone. She only referred to Lin Chen as someone who was accomplished in medicine refinement. As one of the top 10 geniuses, she was also very curious about Lin Chen. Lin Chen waved his hand casually without interest. He did not even look at her. It's all right. We all have a common enemy. When I reach holy fire level, if necessary, I'll also fight with you guys. After saying that, Lin Chen turned around and looked at Han Yizhi and the rest with a smile. Yizhi, teacher Yueqi Ziyun, are you alright? Everyone nodded. Han Ziyun's cultivation was at the late stage of the 7th rank. Although her strength was considered average, it was not enough to drag them down. Although Han Yizhi's cultivation was only at the early stage of the 4th layer, her special physique and spiritual force had reached the late stage of the spirit transformation realm. If they fought, even a late-stage 8th layer cultivator wouldn't have much of an advantage. Ling Yueqi was a real step to the sky. After receiving the ancestors' inheritance, she went to Ling Yueqi's family to get the focus of training. She was already in the late stage of Heavenly Dipper Realm 8th layer, and now she was completely in front of Lin Chen. What's with the attitude? Our cousin Qianxiu is already giving him face by talking to him. He thinks he's so great just because he has some strength? Who does he think he is? The other 3 prodigies of the Dan clan curled their lips and said. Dan Qianxiu glared at them and they finally shut up. This person is unpredictable. He's considered one of the dark horses of the holy fire level. He's only second to the 4 heavenly kings and the top 10 geniuses. His ability might be on the same level as mine. It's best that you guys don't offend him. Dan Qianxiu warned his cousins around him, and then he fell into deep thought. Not only Dan Qianxiu, but many of the prodigies present also fell into deep thought. At that moment, Lin Chen and the others heard a topic they were interested in. Dan Qianxiu and the others immediately pricked up their ears and listened carefully. Class monitor, is this all that the 4 heavenly kings have? Or is it that you're too strong? Lin Chen smiled. You're half right. Your class monitor is indeed strong, but Luo Qingyu of the 4 heavenly kings isn't as simple as her mirror clone. On the contrary, it's because her mirror clone is so weak that she appears to be extremely dangerous. As he spoke, Lin Chen's tone gradually became serious. Although the holy fire level is mysterious and ancient, and can project the clone of another person and perfectly reproduce the other person's ability, I don't think it's that simple. Because some of the foundation and methods might be above the holy fire level, they can't be projected here. That's why the clone's ability is far less powerful than the name of the original person. At this point, some of the prodigies had already understood. That's right. The more powerful the clone that appears in the mirror space, the closer it is to the original person. The weaker it is, the more dangerous it is. Because of them, some things can't be projected. These missing things and foundations are the reason why those people can stand at the top. At this point, Lin Chen was also very curious about how much of his ability was projected. He did not think that the mirror space here could project his characteristic runes. Buzz, buzz. Space rippled, and light screens spread out rapidly, displaying the situation in each of the mirror spaces. In some of the mirror spaces, the prodigies had already killed the projected clones. Some had encountered the clones of the top 10 prodigies and were still in a tough battle. Intruders, please wait for all the mirror spaces to end before you can enter the holy fire level. The obscure voice turned into a spirit wave and entered the minds of everyone in the desert. Lin Chen simply sat on the sand and watched the show. As Lin Chen circulated his heart technique to recover his battle aura, he curiously observed the situation in the mirror spaces. Suddenly, Lin Chen's gaze focused. There really are clones of me. Damn. Not even a 10,000th of Brother Chen's handsomeness is projected. Bad review. Lin Chen cursed as he stared at a light screen at the edge. Everyone could not help but look curiously. I can't believe that this mirror space can even project my ancient green dragon's clone. The mystery of a holy fire level is really amazing. I wonder how much of my ability it has projected. Just as Lin Chen was deep in thought, he saw his avatar take a punch. Immediately, he could not sit still. When the prodigies took a closer look, the 11 of them could not help but suck in a cold breath. The top 10 prodigies, Ning Yunlan and Mo Feng? Oh my god! Fighting 2 prodigies alone? When they saw Mo Feng and Ning Yunlan surrounding Lin Chen's clone and the Azure Dragon clone in an intense battle, everyone looked at each other with unconcealable shock in their eyes. Hit him. Left hook, followed by a knee strike and an elbow strike. Kick his crotch, stab his eyes. Damn, why are you dodging? Damn it, freeze his D*CK with the frozen sky finger. Commander! Lin Chen shouted excitedly, waving his fists in excitement. He looked even more excited than when he was fighting. Seeing his doppelganger gradually being suppressed by Mo Feng, Mr. Lin was so angry that his face turned red. Damn it! Why were you so scared just now? Use your battle aura to feign an attack and attack his D*CK with pure strength. In the end, Lin Chen's clone exploded on the spot after more than 100 rounds of fighting with Mo Feng. Lin Chen was so angry that smoke was about to come out of his head. Damn! This doppelganger really made me lose all my face. Go home and sing and play basketball. Hearing Mr. Lin's angry curses, everyone present couldn't help but frown. Brother! That was Mo Feng from the Heavenly Song Academy. At the level of the ancient families, the strongest person below the 4 heavenly kings was also the most promising candidate to become the holy son in the ancient families. Your clone can fight with him for more than 100 rounds and you're still not satisfied. Do you still expect your clone to defeat him? Chapter 306. Although he was angry, Lin Chen could still see many clues from the battle between his clones. Firstly, his clone was unable to transform the second half of the 9 calamities of creation into a special bloodline. Secondly, his purple-gold eyes had only reached the 4th level of the purple lightning realm. Thirdly, he was unable to use the Azura 9 brilliance transformation, which was the most important factor. Using the Azura 9 Brilliance Transformation's 3-layer transformation to the extreme would allow Lin Chen to reach the 8th level of the Heaven Dipper realm. The other party would have to pay a heavy price if they wanted to take down his clone. As for the rest, Lin Chen had yet to observe them. However, that was all. It was impossible for attribute runes to appear. This unique trump card belonged to Lin Chen and the system. No other powerhouse could replicate it. The ancient green dragon's strength was perfectly reproduced. The ancient green dragon's clone was eventually killed by Mo Feng, Ning Yunlan, and 7 other geniuses who still had the strength to fight. It had even managed to inflict light injuries on Mo Feng before it died. This scene made the geniuses in the same mirror space as Lin Chen gasp. When they looked at Lin Chen's ancient green dragon again, their eyes were filled with horror and fear. Even Dan Qianqiu, one of the top 10 geniuses, was somewhat afraid. If she were to face this ancient green dragon, she would have to pay a heavy price to destroy it. She might even be seriously injured. If there was still Lin Chen by her side, it was obvious that Lin Chen's strength and foundation were equivalent to any one of the top 10 geniuses. It turns out that watching one's clone get beaten up is such a terrible thing. Damn it, I'm so angry. My mood for a breakthrough was completely ruined by these guys. Lin Chen was in a bad mood. He only got better after Ling Yueqi and Han Yizhi comforted him. When he scanned the screen again, 2/3 of the people had already passed through the mirror space. However, some of the mirror spaces had suffered a devastating blow. They had either encountered the clones of the 4 heavenly kings or the clones of the top 10 geniuses. In terms of cultivation, the 4 heavenly kings were at the quasi-venerate level. In terms of combat strength, it was comparable to a peak quasi-venerate or even a first-level yuan venerate. Secondly, the top 10 prodigies would definitely have the strength of a quasi-venerable. If the 15 prodigies who did not have a strong enough lineup and foundation encountered the top 10 prodigies clones, they would either die or perish together. In the end, 2 geniuses from the mirror dimension were completely annihilated by Yi Yanxia, one of the top 10 geniuses and the king of the 4 heavens. The other 3 geniuses who were severely injured after encountering the top 10 geniuses were also in a terrible state. Less than half of them survived. Even if they did survive, it was still unknown if they had the strength to do anything in the Holy Fire territory. Mirror Dimension. Close. Holy Fire Level. Activate. The mirror dimension began to collapse and disintegrate. All the sky prides in the mirror dimension were rapidly sucked into the spatial vortex that had appeared mysteriously and disappeared. Boom! Hundreds of light pillars shot down from the sky, and all the prodigies were teleported into an ancient city. It was a desolate and dilapidated place. On both sides of the ancient city was a vast forest of giant trees. The towering ancient trees were thousands of feet tall and were even more majestic than the mountains. Everything was filled with the aura of the ancient and primordial times. These plants had been growing for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of years. No one knew what kind of strange creatures would be born. In the ancient city, all the prodigies descended together, causing the dilapidated and desolate ancient city to instantly have an aura of vitality. The sudden arrival of this life force had attracted the attention of some of the living beings in the surrounding forest. In the center of the ancient city, Lin Chen and the rest descended into the ancient city. They immediately distanced themselves from each other and were vigilant of each other. While being vigilant of each other, they looked around at their surroundings. Where are we? It seems to be different from the map that we have. The teleportation of the holy fire level is completely random. We just have to be prepared for battle at all times. The holy fire level is vast and boundless. None of the ancestors of the ancient families dared to say that they had mapped the entire holy fire level area. Some of the prodigies took out the maps that their families had prepared beforehand and compared them. Something's not right. Suddenly, Lin Chen, Han Yizhi, the four heavenly kings, and the other prodigies reacted almost immediately. Ling Yueqi and Han Ziyun instantly stood together and were ready for battle. Buzz, buzz, buzz. A terrifying sound wave began to surge from all directions. There were ripples in the air as if it was affected by a large number of creatures. Boom! In the next moment, an earth-shattering black wave surged. It was thousands of feet tall and appeared from all directions. The moment the mysterious black wave surged, a wave-like mental sound whistle was transmitted over. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The spirit whistle was extremely terrifying. It was like waves after waves of spiritual attacks that continuously surged into everyone's minds. Everyone present was affected to varying degrees. Some of the prodigies who had a lower level of spirit immediately squatted down and covered their heads in agony. What's more, within 10 breaths of the spiritual howl's eruption, their eyes had already turned white and they were foaming at the mouth. Lin Chen and Han Yizhi immediately activated the Genesis Holy Bible and formed 2 layers of spiritual shields to protect Han Ziyun and Ling Yueqi. Lin Chen was still alright. 3 of the 4 of them were alchemists and had a higher level of spirit. The impact was not too great. Even Ling Yueqi had the spirit of beginner stage spirit transformation. She was not as flustered as most of the prodigies. What is that? Han Ziyun's pretty face was a little solemn. What kind of creature could release such a terrifying spirit whistle? Is it a beast? Why haven't I seen it before? Ling Yueqi looked like she was reminiscing. At this moment, Lin Chen spoke with great interest. It's a rare spiritual type beast, the black demon bee. It only existed in ancient times. I didn't expect there to be so many left in the holy fire level. Only Lin Chen could see that there was a spiritual type light ball in each of the black demon bees. The black wave was as vast as the sea, and there were at least tens of thousands of black demon bees gathered. There might even be hundreds of thousands of them. Dan Qianqiu of the Dan family was also an alchemist who was very skilled in refining medicine. His spirit was outstanding, and he was one of the few people who could remain calm in such a dangerous situation. Dan Qianqiu stared at Lin Chen in shock as if he had seen a ghost. At this moment, Lin Chen was staring at the mysterious black wave with excitement and fanaticism. His eyes were shining like a bachelor who had been single for 30 years who had seen a beautiful woman who had her clothes taken off. His saliva was about to flow out. Is he crazy? He's actually drooling at those black demon bees? Chapter 307. Dan Qianqiu saw everything clearly and felt his scalp go numb. Where did this weirdo come from? He's already half a step into the gates of hell, and he's still drooling? The black demon wasp, which had frightened most of the sky prides, was like an unprecedented treasure in Lin Fan's eyes. Lin Chen wiped the saliva from the corner of his mouth and muttered to himself with a trembling voice, "If I pick up all these attribute light balls, will my spiritual power reach the peak of the spirit transformation realm?" The spiritual power realm was one of the most difficult realms to cultivate. Apart from talented humans like Han Yizhi, who had special bloodlines and special constitutions, most people had no way to cultivate it. Even for Han Yizhi, who had a special constitution, it was very difficult for her to reach the late stage of the spiritual power realm. If not for Lin Chen's Genesis Holy Scripture, it would not be easy for her to cultivate. Among the attribute light balls dropped by Lin Chen's enemies, spiritual power was always the least valuable. It was like trying to put out a burning cart of firewood with a cup of water for a late-stage spirit transformation realm cultivator. If he cultivated normally with the Genesis Holy Scripture, it would take him at least 2 years to break through to the next realm. For ordinary cultivators, this was already a godly speed. But for Lin Chen, he could not wait 2 years. Just as Lin Chen was rubbing his hands and preparing for a big fight, the black demon bee's spiritual roar became even more ferocious and surged toward him. As if trying to destroy all of their spiritual power, the prodigies prepared for a desperate counterattack. Boom! A faint yellow spiritual light rose into the sky like a rainbow, and a yellow holy barrier rose from the ground of the ancient city. The yellow spiritual light formed a bowl-shaped spiritual barrier that enveloped all the prodigies in the ancient city. At this moment, all the spiritual roar was blocked by the barrier, and ripples of light kept appearing on the surface of the barrier. The pressure on the prodigy's spiritual power was reduced by 90%. Is this the ancient city's Holy Spirit barrier? We're saved. Luckily, this ancient city still has some power from ancient times. Many prodigies looked as if they had just survived a calamity. Their spiritual power had not reached the spirit transformation realm, and they were in so much pain that they wished they were dead. Things don't seem to be that simple. At this moment, the beautiful young master, Luo Qingyu, who was holding the white feather fan, slowly opened her mouth. Luo Qingyu looked at the peerless beauty who was dressed as a man with great interest. Luo Qingyu looked up at the sky and said seriously, "Although the attacks of these black demon bees aren't as fierce as before, they haven't completely stopped attacking. At this rate, the Holy Spirit barrier can only last for 4 more days." Yi Yanxiao, who had 2 blood axes strapped to her slender waist, nodded in agreement. "That's right. Most importantly, these black demon bees are ferocious beasts that live in group. They are usually led by a wasp king. Judging from the situation, the wasp king hasn't arrived yet." Mo Feng glanced at everyone present and said indifferently, "If the queen bee arrives, I'm afraid the attack will be 1 or 2 levels stronger. By then, the number of people who can survive can be counted with 2 hands." Hearing this, many Heaven's favorites trembled. Their eyes were full of fear. Only a certain Lin's eyes shone even brighter when he heard the news. "If you want to make a breakthrough, now is the only time," Luo Qingyu, one of the 4 heavenly kings, said cheerfully. She pointed at the void and kept her white feather fan. Then, she turned into a ray of light and flew away from the ancient city. After leaving the ancient city's spiritual barrier, Luo Qingyu withstood the spiritual attacks of the black demon bees. She smiled and raised her hand. The light of battle chi disappeared in her palm. Bam! The overwhelming palm wind penetrated countless black demon bees. Luo Qingyu's palm broke through the black wave and escaped from the scene. When Luo Qingyu was leaving, she suddenly turned her head. Coincidentally, her eyes met with Lin's. When their eyes met, Luo Qingyu's green eyes were filled with resentment and killing intent. Then, she left the swarm of black demon bees. "This pretty girl dares to stare at me? The girl who did this the last time was almost killed by me." Lin laughed mockingly. Strange phenomena appeared in the ancient city. The four heavenly kings used their various abilities and left the spiritual barrier to fight their way out of the encirclement. Yensha smiled and waved the blood-red battle axe at her waist casually. Her pure strength was like the birth of a ferocious dragon. The sharp axe radiance cut through the black wave and created a heavenly river-like crack. It was a shocking sight. The young man in white held his sword and stabbed out. The void sword intent cut through the space like a sharp blade and cut off part of the spiritual howls. He then left the scene in a carefree manner. The last youth with the feathered crown leisurely stepped into the void. Every step he took caused countless spiritual fluctuations to ripple outwards. Every step he took not only shattered the spiritual howls, but also reflected them back. The spiritual waves caused a large number of black demon bees to die. The dead black demon hornets scattered around him like flower petals. Even Mr. Lin could not help but click his tongue in amazement when he left so calmly. This is the first time I've seen someone who is more pretentious than me. The four heavenly kings are indeed strong. Lin Chen could see that any one of the four heavenly kings had the ability to kill all the black demon bees present. However, they didn't need to waste their energy. Everyone present was their opponent. There was no need for the four heavenly kings to save them. Let's go. If the Wasp King arrives, it'll be troublesome for me. Mo Feng led the people from the Heavenly Song Academy. Before he left, he glanced at Lin Chen and punched the void. The wind from his punch seemed to contain a mysterious force and spatial wave, shattering the spiritual howls that rushed toward him. The people from the Heavenly Song Academy fought their way out of the encirclement. After the four heavenly kings, the top 10 geniuses began to leave as well. Only the geniuses who didn't have a high spiritual level and didn't have the ability to resist large-scale spiritual attacks were left behind. In just half an hour, almost half of the geniuses in the ancient city were gone. Some of the geniuses tried to break through the encirclement, but they were injured by the spiritual howls again and again. Through this operation, everyone had a preliminary understanding of the gap between them and the top 10 geniuses and the four heavenly kings. The holy fire level this time was much more severe than any of the previous times. It was their first time entering, and they were attacked by so many black demon bees forming a swarm. Most of them would be eliminated first. Class monitor, it's time for us to leave. Han Yizhi turned to look at Lin Chen. Unexpectedly, he sat down with his legs crossed and chuckled. Why are you leaving? The best part is yet to come. Let's wait for the Wasp King to arrive. Lin Chen's words were shocking. More than 20 geniuses next to him stared at him in horror and retreated in fear. Wait for the Wasp King? Do you want to die faster? Chapter 308. With the help of the Wasp King, the attacks of the black demon bees would be at least twice as strong. By then, even the top 10 geniuses might not be able to break through. Damn it, I thought this guy was a dark horse. Turns out he's a lunatic. Let's hurry up and figure out how to break out. If he wants to die, that's his business. Han Ziyun said anxiously as the 20 or so Sky Prides immediately distanced themselves from Lin Chen. Lin Chen, what are you doing? Do you know what it means when the Wasp King arrives? Any group of high-tier dire beasts that has a leader will become two completely different creatures. Lin Chen could not be bothered with this little girl. Instead, he sat down cross-legged calmly and his consciousness entered the system. Seeing this, Han Ziyun was furious. Ling Yueqi held her hand and said with a smile, "Don't worry. Silly girl, is this your first day knowing him? Do you think his actions can be deduced with common sense?" Ling Yueqi's reminder stunned Han Ziyun. Thinking back to the first time he saw Lin Chen, every action he took, there was no common sense to speak of. I also believe in our class monitor. Since he said to wait, then let's wait until the Wasp King arrives. Han Yizhi smiled faintly and sat beside Lin Chen, waiting for him quietly. Dan Qianqiu's heart trembled when she saw this scene from the side. Lin Chen didn't intend to leave at all. With his strength, he could definitely protect the 3 people around him and leave together. Does he really want to wait until the Wasp King arrives? What is he planning? If the Wasp King is controlling them, even I will find it difficult to break through. Intense curiosity and suspicion surrounded Dan Qianqiu's heart. Even though her alchemy skills were as rare as phoenix feathers and qilin horns in the Dan family, her curiosity ranked first. Ever since she came into contact with alchemy, she wanted to know the answer to every question. Apart from some unanswered questions, she wanted to know the answer to any question that piqued her curiosity. Her strong curiosity stopped her in her tracks. She had no intention of breaking through. "Cousin Qianqiu, are you really not going to leave?" The young prodigies of the Dan clan tried to persuade Dan Qianqiu again and again. Dan Qianqiu seemed to be possessed by a demon as he kept focusing on Lin Chen and the others. "Hey, let's go." Once Sister Qianqiu's curiosity was aroused, no one could stop her. Back then, when she wanted to become a Tier 5 alchemist, wasn't it the same? We can only wait for her outside. A young man in blue shook his head and sighed. He had taken Dan Qianqiu's place and led everyone to charge out of the wasp swarm. The youths of the Dan family were all alchemists, and their spiritual power was the highest among everyone present. Therefore, even if their battle chi cultivation was slightly lacking, it did not hinder them from making breakthroughs at lightning speed. Your Excellency Lin Chen, please forgive us for our previous offense. At this moment, a blue-clothed youth stood with a sword on his back, cupping his fists and apologizing. Behind him, there were 3 figures from the Lung clan. 4 geniuses from the Lung Yu family actually took the initiative to apologize to Lin Chen and express their goodwill. These 4 people were the 4 geniuses from the Lung clan who were transported into the same mirror space as Mo Feng and Ning Yunlan. Lin Chen raised his eyebrows slightly with a mocking smile on his face. He seemed to understand the intentions of these 4 people. "Lung Yu, is there something wrong with your brain? Why are you siding with this trash?" "Ah, Lung Yu, I didn't expect you to be such fence-sitters. You actually believe in a Heaven Dipper Stage 6 cultivator?" The 10 geniuses from the Lung clan couldn't help but sneer as if they had just seen the biggest joke in the world. The 4 geniuses were so angry that their faces turned red. The leader, Lung Yu, scolded. "What do you know? His Excellency Lin Chen is the one who is second only to the top 10 geniuses. What do you short-sighted people know?" Hearing this explanation, the other 10 geniuses from the Lung clan laughed even harder. "Him? And second only to the top 10 geniuses? Ah, are you trying to kill me with laughter? These 4 guys have already gone crazy. It doesn't matter. Let them go crazy. We'll take our leave first." The 10 geniuses from the Lung clan were disdainful of Ling Yu and the rest. They immediately activated their battle chi to defend themselves while the rest charged out of the ancient city. One. Suddenly, the battle chi defense of the 10 geniuses was shattered by the soul shriek that was twice as ferocious as before. 6 of them rolled their eyes and bled from their 7 orifices. Their spirits were severely damaged, and they were sent back into the ancient city alive. How is this possible? Those who were still conscious looked at the hornet swarm in disbelief. The hornet swarm was initially dozens of miles away from the ancient city, but it was now only 10 miles away. Their soul shriek was more concentrated and sharp. Once any living being tried to break out of the encirclement, the hornet swarm would focus all their energy on that living being. Other than that, only a small portion of their energy was used to attack the spiritual shield. These black demon bees seem to be trying to trap us here. They are waiting for the Wasp King. It will be even more difficult for us to leave now. Dan Qianqiu frowned slightly. When she looked at Lin Chen again, he was still as calm and composed as before. His eyes were closed and he seemed to be resting. Lin Chen, what means do you have to break out of this predicament? Why do you have to wait for the Wasp King? Dan Qianqiu's curiosity was like a cat scratching at her heart. She wanted to interrogate Lin Chen on the spot. However, if Lin Chen really had a trump card, why would he tell her about it? Time ticked by. Lin Chen remained motionless. The 4 geniuses from the Lung clan decided to stay by Lin Chen's side. Other than the geniuses from the Lung clan, the other geniuses from the ancient families also tried to break out of the encirclement, but to no avail. Ever since the black demon bees changed the range of their soul shriek and focused their firepower on those who tried to break out of the encirclement, they couldn't break out at all. Instead, they were severely injured. At this moment, there were less than 200 geniuses in the ancient city. Despair began to pervade the entire ancient city. Shouts of unwillingness and cries of fear could be heard all around the ancient city, trying to win it over. Because when everyone was in despair, the black demon bees seemed to be stimulated and became even more excited. It was as if they had discovered a delicacy, and their soul shriek became even more terrifying. As soul elemental beasts, they were better at sensing people's emotions. The more desperate the soul shriek was, the more tempting it was to them. 3 days passed. During these 3 days, only 7 geniuses succeeded in breaking out of the encirclement. 11 of them died on the spot. The moment their soul shriek collapsed, they were devoured by the black demon bees on the spot. Not even their bones were left. Lin Chen had nothing to do, so he picked up all the remaining attribute light balls in the ancient city. Although there weren't many of them, it was better than nothing. Finally, on the 4th day, 3 soul shrieks pierced through the air from the surrounding giant trees. This time, even Dan Qianqiu, who had deliberately stayed behind, was shocked. There wasn't just 1 Wasp King, but 3. Chapter 309. The 3 black demonic wasp kings that were hundreds of feet tall were completely black. They flapped their wings, and 2 sharp fangs hung in front of their heads, emitting a steel-like luster. The moment the 3 black demonic wasp kings flew into the horde, more black demonic wasps began to pour into the horde, and the horde grew taller and taller. When the black demonic wasps led by the 3 wasp kings all gathered together, there were more than 100,000 of them. Buzz, buzz. The agile impact that was a few times more terrifying than before shook the entire ancient city. Oh no! It's not just 1 but 3. There are black demonic wasps from 3 hives here. Even Dan Qianqiu, who had been relatively calm, panicked. If it was just 1 wasp king, she would not be afraid. However, if there were 3 wasp kings, the power would be completely different. Oh no, the wasp kings are here! The ancient city's spirit shield is about to collapse. We're all going to die. I don't want to give up. It wasn't easy for the Ling family to enter the holy fire level, and I'm going to die here as soon as I enter the holy fire level. Unwillingness, hysteria, despair, and countless howls and roars echoed in the ancient city. Lin Chen, can you break out of this predicament? Dan Qianqiu pursed her cherry lips and stared at Lin Chen curiously. She wanted to see what kind of expression he would have in the face of the 3 wasp kings. The next moment, the beauty covered her red lips with her slender hands. Her beautiful eyes trembled as if she had seen the most unbelievable scene in the world. Lin Chen stood at the top of the tallest tower, facing the sky, opened his arms, and sang at the top of his lungs. The young man's hysterical, high-spirited singing spread throughout the entire ancient city. You're finally here. Luckily, I didn't give up. Happiness is hard to come by, so people cherish it even more. Everyone was dumbfounded when they heard Lin Chen's excited singing. Some of them almost fainted on the spot. There were 3 F** King Wasp Kings? You F** King waited for me for so long? You still want to talk about happiness? Happiness is hard to come by? Are you in a hurry to die or to be reincarnated? The next moment, Lin Chun seemed like he would not stop until someone died. You're finally here. I almost missed you. I didn't let myself down when I met you at my best age. When a certain genius heard the last two sentences, his eyes rolled back and he fainted from anger. Crazy. He must be crazy. Meeting you at my best age? Are you going to die at the best age possible? All the geniuses present were at their prime. They tried their best to get to holy fire level at their best age just for the slim chance of becoming the holy sun. However, as soon as he entered holy fire level, he encountered the horde of black demon hornet. Before he could spread his wings and soar, he was about to fall like a meteor. Dying under such circumstances, this bastard Lin Chun actually said, I didn't let myself down only by meeting you at my best age? This wasn't a case of having water in his head, this was a case of having an ocean in his head. But in reality, for Lin Fan, he had really endured for a long time, and it was extremely difficult for him to endure. He had never tried something like this before. Tens of thousands of attribute light balls flew around in front of his eyes, and he endured it for 3 whole days. 3 days. They should have entered the bridal chamber, but he could not even touch a single drop of soup. He was afraid that the horde would run away and alert the Black Demon Hornet King. But now it was finally here, and there were 3 of them, 3 consecutive blessings. Lin Chun was more than ecstatic. Tears welled up in his eyes on the spot, and he could not help but sing at the top of his lungs. Dan Qianqiu stared blankly at the young man who was singing at the top of his lungs. She could not think of such an outcome no matter how hard she racked her brains. The space shook, and the spiritual shield began to tremble. With the addition of the Hornet King, all the spiritual attacks became extremely penetrative. Perhaps another 5 waves of attacks would completely destroy the last remaining trace of spiritual energy in the ancient city. The next moment, Lin Chun wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes, and a cynical smile appeared on his lips as usual. The show has just begun. Ancient Azure Dragon. Roar. The dragon's roar shook the heavens. The nearly 30,000 feet long ancient azure dragon descended upon the ancient city like a miracle of the dragons. Lin Chun and Han Yizhi stomped on the ground. The 2 of them and the ancient azure dragon soared into the air and instantly charged out of the spiritual shield. After sensing that humans had left the spiritual shield, the 3 Black Demon Hornet Kings instantly targeted Lin Chun, Han Yizhi, and the ancient azure dragon. Buzz. Chi. Chi. The moment the spiritual attacks spread out like tidal waves, ripple-like distortions appeared in the space, and all of them were aimed at the 2 people and the dragon. Yizhi, the 8th chapter of the Grand Beginning Bible. Yes. As Lin Chun shouted coldly, the 2 of them interlocked their fingers and made the same hand seals. Their spiritual powers were like countless vortexes, gathering in the space in front of the 2 of them and covering the space of 10,000 feet. When the countless spiritual vortexes appeared, the aggressive spiritual sound attack came at once. Just as everyone thought that Lin Chun and Han Yizhi would die under the spiritual sound attack, the powerful spiritual attacks were suddenly distorted by the duo's spiritual vortexes. What's this? Dan Qianqiu's beautiful eyes focused, and her expression turned solemn. As one of the top alchemists of the younger generation in the spiritual state, she could sense that Lin Chun and Han Yizhi were using a never-before-seen spiritual control method. Every strand of spirit force formed into a circle, and when they were condensed together, they could resist and dissolve powerful spirit force attacks. However, it was impossible to achieve by common sense because a person's willpower was limited. It was impossible to control so many scattered spiritual powers at the same time with high precision. The moment Lin Chun and Han Yizhi joined forces to resist the spiritual attacks, all the spiritual vortexes suddenly changed directions. Yes, they aimed the spiritual vortexes at the 3 black demon hornet kings. Have a good taste of your own spiritual attacks. The 2 of them pushed their hands horizontally, and the spiritual attacks that had surged into the spiritual vortexes suddenly burst out like a hurricane, destroying the 3 black demon hornet kings. At this moment, everyone's expression turned pale with fright. Shifting the attack. Lin Chen and Han Yizhi had shifted all the spiritual attacks of the Black Demon Hornet Kings to the 3 Black Demon Hornet Kings. No matter how intelligent the Black Demon Hornet Kings were, they definitely didn't expect Lin Chen to do this. They were under the protection of so many Black Demon Hornets, and they didn't expect to suffer such a destructive attack. The 3 Black Demon Hornet Kings didn't even have the chance to dodge, and they directly faced the spiritual sound attack of all the Black Demon Hornets. Boom! The spiritual attacks blasted a huge hole that was 10,000 feet tall in the Hornet Wave, and the 3 Black Demon Hornet Kings' heads exploded on the spot. The instinctive fear that originated from living creatures quickly spread throughout the Hornet Wave. However, Lin Chen didn't give them a chance to retreat. Now's the time. Green Dragon Soul-Splitting Claw. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.